Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
This one's special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
All right, we're not going to sound the alarms here today, are we, OB?
No.
We're not going to like that A&M lost a midweek game in baseball, the number one team in the country.
In February.
We are going to try to just kind of talk about it, what it is. Not good.
No.
It's early.
Yep.
It's early in many ways. It's early for a new coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nick pointed out to me before the show, 7th game he's been the manager for. It's early trying to figure out your bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
And Texas State's a good baseball team. And the term that I don't hate, one of the terms that I don't love, but it is true. You know, you can hear something like, I don't want to hear it, but you're right. It's baseball.
Yeah.
Baseball's a weird thing, man.
You know, I've said this before, and we all know that I'm not a baseball expert. I don't claim to be. But like in the past, you know, some team like Elon would come in, or Bowling Green, or New Hampshire, whatever.
Right.
And A&M would just work them over. And I'd say, it doesn't mean anything. It's February, they're bad teams. And so much of, it seems to me, so much of February and early March is for managers finding out who I can depend on and who I can't. And then reacting accordingly.
Right.
So I see there was 13 walks last night.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm Michael Early, I'm starting to, put a red line through certain names.
Did I see the bullpen had 10 of those walks?
Right. And that was one of the areas when we would talk, we would say, look, yeah, this team should be really good, but the bottom line is that's not Aschenbeck and Cortez in the bullpen anymore.
Yeah.
Who's going to be able to step up and get that done? And that's going to be a big question.
We talk about the vibes. I talk about the vibes sometimes. And I think part of the issue now, fan base, social media, on the boards, is the fact that A&M basketball is on a 2-game losing streak. Okay?
Yeah.
Baseball, number one team in the country, has lost a couple in a row.
2 in a row, yeah.
And let's be honest, the end of football season will always linger.
Yeah.
Okay? Until they go on a win streak in football, that losing streak will linger. So the bad vibes are kind of a combination of things. And oh, by the way, we have a softball team that could win the national championship. You know, I know that it's not the big three, but that is something going on right now. An amazing start to their season at 15-1. Track and field's doing great. Women's tennis, like there's women's golf, men's golf. We got a lot of stuff going on. Tennis, but the vibes, I think, when you want to be angry, you find reasons to be angry, and you start pulling things together. I don't know if you do this, OB. When I get mad at my family,
okay.
Let's say I'm kind of calm until I'm not. Okay.
Okay.
And then something little will, wake up the dragon, and then I notice everything. And it's so clear. I feel like a beautiful mind. I see every sock that's out, every hoodie that hasn't been hung, everything. And I point it all out. And I feel that way as an Aggie fan sometimes.
Yeah, I don't do that. Irma does. Because I'm the one that leaves everything out. But yeah, this A&M team may end up being great. It may end up being average. It may be bad. I don't know. But I know this. I'm not going to make that judgment of what I think it is based on a couple of games in February.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Now, The football thing you're talking about, that was November. That was money time.
Yeah.
And you collapsed again. Not on Elko, it was the first time, but we've seen it happen so often
for this program.
So again, but in February, are you really cashing in your chips because they lost a couple of games in February?
No.
You have plenty of time to start saying, okay, maybe this is not going to be a lineup that just mashes the ball like it did last year. So maybe, I'm not saying they're going to do this, maybe we're going to say, hey, we're going to have to manufacture runs and build more around speed and juggle the lineup to where get some of the fast guys up. By the way, I saw Caden Kent let off last night, which I applaud. I applaud Michael Early for not just standing pat on his lineup and start experimenting, which is the time of year to do that.
1 for 4 with a home run.
Yeah, I mean, that guy who couldn't get in the lineup for whatever reason.
1 for 5, it looks like.
But I applaud that they're not just, hey, well, this is what we do. But you know what? You got to look at the lineup. What's not in the lineup right now that was in that lineup last year.
A lot of production.
Like Sorrell's been hurt. Grahovec's now hurt. That guy, that Burton.
Yeah, Teddy B.
He was he wasn't a masher, but he was a good, productive hitter at first base. I know
Braden Montgomery's in the bigs in pro
catcher
ball.
whose name I can't recall, Braden, of course. That catcher whose name I can't recall right now, Apel.
Yeah, Jackson Apel.
Yeah, he was a good hitter. So there's a lot of production to replace, and you got to maybe bring some guys along a little bit or change your approach.
Yeah, well, I don't like it. Nobody does. And hopefully they take care of business this weekend.
No, I wasn't happy that they lost. But, had they beaten Texas State, I would have thought, good, they beat Texas State. But I wouldn't have thought, okay, so everything's going to be great this year because they beat Texas State in February.
Right.
It's the time to figure out what you have and and who you can count on.
Which, by the way, they were experimenting a little bit yesterday. That was a fact. So,
I don't mean to be a sunshine pumper. I'm just telling that's the way I look at things early in the season, but not so much in football because you don't have as many games. But whether basketball or baseball or if it was softball or whatever.
But as for it being baseball, I am not worried about the offense because I am. You're worried about it?
Yeah, I do. Okay. I do.
I'm not worried. I think the offense will be fine.
Okay.
I hope they're fine, but I think they'll be fine.
I'm not panicking. I'm uncertain about the offense, I guess is what I'm saying. Are they going to be able to hit the way they did last year? Are they going to hit with power the way they did last year? I know
if people hit their averages, they'll hit more.
I know Gavin Cash is off to a slow start. Okay, that doesn't mean he's going to have a bad year. So to me, it's just kind of like, okay, I'm just in a wait and see attitude.
Wyatt Hensler had a nice one again yesterday, 3 for 5, home run, a double. So look, sucks. Take care of business this week, and let's feel better. And let's not worry about the rankings right now. If it turns out to be a tailspin, then we'll start worrying. It's 2 losses back to back where your pitching, your bullpen hasn't been good. That's a problem. Fix that. Yeah. And then hopefully we move on.
To me, the biggest, if I was going to be alarmed of the last 2 games, the thing that I would quote be alarmed about is that Fresh Corn didn't get the save on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And not that I'm a college expert on anything, but especially college baseball. But it seems to me, if I got a pitcher in college baseball getting guys out, I stick with him until he does it. So, like I'm saying, I would have stuck with Brad Brutus in the ninth until he gave up a hit. Right. But anyway, maybe that's just a one-off for Fresh Corn. He's going to end up being a great reliever.
We got a big basketball game tonight.
Yeah. Got the old Vanderbilt Commodores, Lionel Richie and everybody coming in.
Well, we're going to talk to one of your buddies here in a little bit, Chris Lee.
Chris Lee's a good friend of mine.
Vandy Insider, Southeastern 16, Vandy 247, does a little bit of everything. He talks a lot of SEC sports, but also focuses on Vandy, so we'll talk to him about that game. Big game in the fact that I think this fan base needs a win, all right?
Yeah.
And I think we've said it multiple times. It's not a must-win, but it's a feel-good win. It's a stop-the-bleeding win.
You know who it's a must-win for?
Vandy.
Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of on that edge,
Teetering, yeah.
And, boy, if they could get
this could put them...
This would be a quadrant 1A win. If
they don't have one, I don't think, right?
They're 3-8, I think, in quad 1. I don't know what they're the quad 1A, whatever that is.
They struggle on the road, though.
Mm-hmm. So, but they're thinking, hey, if they can come in and beat A&M, they probably wrote their ticket.
Yeah. So I was reading, ESPN has their FBI index for football. And what I'm about to tell you is kind of like one of those statements like, it's just baseball. It's one of these that I don't like. Okay, fine. The number one team in the SEC with returning production is?
Texas A&M. I don't know.
Yep.
I would think with Le'Veon Moss and all the running backs coming back.
They're number 6 in the country, number 1 in the SEC, followed by in the SEC at 8, Vanderbilt. Here's how I feel about that. I'd rather it be this than that. I'd rather have returning production than not. But what I really care about is winning.
Yeah.
Right? Like, cool. We were the number 1 team last year in the SEC with returning production as well.
Is that right?
That is right.
Look, I'm saying it again. I mean, it's still February, so a lot could change. But I love what I project for the offense. I mean, I love it. I really believe. That said, I thought that I'll own it. I thought Connor Wigman was ready for a big year last year, and I'm incredulous what happened here. But I saw enough from Marcel Reed that I think he's going to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the SEC. And who isn't going to feel good about the running back situation with Le'Veon and Reuben Owens? And I think speed has been upgraded at receiver, and the offensive line is coming back. I expect the team is going to average 30 to 35 points a game.
Well, I'm going to be optimistic for a moment after being so sad the last couple of days. Okay.
Okay.
I think your secondary is better.
I sure hope so. Well, you know what's one of the first questions we have to ask Mike Elko at the end of spring football? Do you have guys that know how to play zone now?
Yeah.
Because you said they don't.
Well, I think they're going to be better. Julia Humphreys, I think another year of Des Ricks knowing how to play. Will Leeds back. I think secondary, and others, right? I think secondary is going to be better.
Okay.
The linebackers, you got returning production there. The linebackers were not great last year overall, but there were moments that they were really good, and they were better when Scooby Williams was out there.
I'll agree with that.
Scooby's out there, Torian's out there. Like that group, I don't think they're taking a step back. The question is the defensive line, right?
I think that's a big question.
And even though we believe in a lot of the young talent, we just need to see it, right?
Yeah.
And if the secondary is better, that relationship between the defensive line and secondary is huge, right?
It is.
So I'm just trying to be optimistic at a moment.
Okay.
Right? Like, I'm not saying, look, if your offense is on a scale of 1 to 10, 3 notches better than it was last year. Okay, if you were to give their offense a grade at 1 to 10, a number, you say 5?
Right. What I think it's going to be
last year.
What it was, or
what it was.
Well, with Le'Veon Moss, it was probably a 7, 7.5.
Okay.
Le'Veon.
And Le'Veon we don't know how quick he's going to come back to being Le'Veon, right? But the offense this year, a couple of pegs higher than it was last year on that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As of today, I would project them to be an 8 to an 8.5.
Okay. Defensively, today, you were very underwhelmed with that defense last year.
Yeah. Today, I would be honest. I'm not going to sure. I'd probably project them as a 4 or a 5.
What were they last year?
At the beginning of the year, I'd call them an 8 or a 9.
But what were they?
They were probably 6.
So you think this year's defense, with the changes,
if you look at the totality
of
it.
But we also overrated that defense, not for good reason, because of the defensive line returning production.
Well, and the defensive line was productive up until South Carolina.
Yeah.
They were productive up until November. And then all of a sudden they're playing the South Carolina offensive line that was give up among the most sacks in the country, and you couldn't get to the quarterback. The quarterback's running all over you. And then all of a sudden Peyton Thorne looks like John Unitas. And, it just...
Schedule probably a little bit more difficult?
I don't know.
I know you don't care about that.
Yeah, but same guys. Is that Notre Dame team? Yeah, you got to go on the road, but are they better than they were last year? I doubt it. Missouri, you got to go on the road. Are they a better team without Luther Burden and Theo Weiss?
Texas?
Probably not. Texas is probably not as good a team. You got to go over
But they'll
there.
still be top 3 or 4
Yeah, they're going to be good.
Yep.
They're going to be good. LSU, who knows? I keep hearing how much better they're going to be because of the receivers they got.
Yeah.
I say, yeah, but no one talks about those All-American tackles that aren't going to be there.
But winning in Baton Rouge for A&M?
Hadn't happened since 94, but I was there when it happened.
So you'll be there again when it happens.
Lord willing.
Lord willing. Hey, we got to hurry because we got to talk to Chris Lee here in a few minutes.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know what you tuned into, this is TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, I did most of that because somebody asked if you had some memory issues because I kept on asking you stuff about the show. And I was like, it's our bit. Like, it's not like, hey, is everything okay with OB?
Well, I probably do have some memory issues.
Well, don't we all?
But you know what I do remember? I do remember that this show, The Go Hour, is brought to you by CC Creations, but TexAgs Live is brought to us by David Gardner's Jewelers. And we're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. And right here, this part, the paint, this is the Holistic Planning Cool Zone. Let's see, this is back up where Holistic Planning, you go there, they're going to help you with your investments. Your taxes are coming up soon. Your estate planning, which brings us back to investments because you can go with Holistic Planning and they'll do what?
I forget. Can you tell me?
They'll help you invest in pro sports.
Now I'm the one with memory issues. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you can call us up on the
steel trap.
What's the hotline? I'll do it. Bubby's Catering Hotline, 979-693-1150. You can call that number. You can text that number. We'll go around the room quickly and say hi to the people behind the glass. Is our friend Nick Savish. Nick, good morning.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm all right. Like I mentioned about last night's game, it's Game 7 in the tenure of Michael Early. Of course, disappointing result, but he's still learning too, right? He's learning too what this team can do, what the moves to make. Coach Jason Kelly, the pitching coach, he's still learning his guys. So no need to hit the panic button yet. And as for hoops, exciting game tonight, a real chance to get back into the win column after a couple of tough losses. So I'll be looking forward to it.
So I was talking to a couple of our buds at the Angry Elephant yesterday. Greg and Brian came by, and we're just chatting about some business. And we're going to be at the Angry Elephant on Saturday, the one in Cypress, right? 4 to 6. And I was like, hey, but where in Cypress is it? They go, dude, it's like right next to the outlet mall. Like,
great.
I was like, that's like a 45-minute drive. That's nothing.
Yeah, it's probably an hour on the nose from here.
From my house, 46 minutes.
Okay.
Because I've done it. Because I go to soccer there. 46 minutes from my house. But, I live on the outskirts of South College Station. Whatever. But that means folks that live in this area, not the Holistic Planning Cool Zone.
Come on down.
You come hang out with us. We're going to have Houstonians
the Price
there.
Is Right. Come on down.
Cypress will celebrate.
Everybody.
Hopefully looking at the Florida game with hopefully thinking about a 2-game win streak. And maybe A&M looking to get their looking for their second win in a row. Maybe.
Look, we're there to talk about anything they want to talk about. It's going to be fun.
You'll talk politics. You'll talk lobster.
I'll definitely talk politics. We'll talk Aggie sports. We'll talk
You'll name it. It's the Angry Elephant. You can talk about it all.
Great wings at the Angry Elephant.
Let's go to Callie Gardner there at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Calita, hello.
Good morning. How's it going?
I'm all right, buddy. How are you?
I'm great. It's a good Wednesday.
Is it okay to call a lady buddy? Is that okay? That's more of a guy thing, right?
Well, I think sometimes guys take offense to that.
Well, I know that like my daughters sometimes say bro.
I say bro.
Yeah, and I'm like, you're not allowed to say bro. I think that's part of the bro community.
Okay. So what do we have?
Huh?
What do we have if we're not allowed to say bro?
Sis.
Okay, that's Allie.
Gal.
Allie loves that word.
Home chick. Never mind. The face that OB made was great. All right, I'll let you read some news before we hit a break.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on Aggie baseball just a little bit. I know there was a rough outing last night, but there was a positive moment in Wyatt Hensler. I think he seemed to find his groove. He was 3 for 5 and a triple away from the cycle. He had some good looks at third too, so I'm excited to see kind of what he does in replacement of Gavin Grohovac or whatever they decide to do there. The Texas A&M track and field team opens their postseason campaign at home this weekend. They host the SEC Indoor Championships at the first time in the new indoor facility. They have a number of athletes who rank very high in the top 5 nationally in their respective events. And the SEC is a total powerhouse in track and field. All 16 programs have a women's team, and there are 15 men's teams that are coming to College Station to compete. And of those women's team, 9 are ranked in the top 25 and 8 land in the top 25 for the men. So just going to be a really good weekend of competition in Aggieland. And then on the women's golf side, they had a runner-up finish yesterday at the golf club in Houston, and freshman Vanessa Borovilos took home her first national title individual, and with a 15 under 201, and she was a big reason for that runner-up finish for the golf team. So excited to see what they continue to do this season too.
We should have Garrett Chadwell in studio tomorrow, so we'll chit-chat with him about that. OB, let's take the baseball team to lunch.
Let's do it.
Okay? And we'll do it tomorrow, though. Okay?
Got to get them back on track.
And I want you to lead the conversation with them, all right?
Sure.
So I want you to inspire them, but also let them know about the nutritional facts of going to 1775.
Well, if you want to increase your
muscles,
testosterone, red meat, good red meat. And you know what? You can get some great red meat.
Yeah, you can.
Like some succulent brisket at 1775. Maybe I do have memory issues. 1775, you can get the succulent brisket, my favorite, pork ribs, and then the jalapeno cheese sausage.
Yeah.
And then for the side, our favorite. I mean, they have plenty of sides. They got more than one, but our favorite, is the queso mac and cheese.
We're not like a couple when we go there. We go, but we both.
We're a couple of gluttons.
Yeah, we are. And I highly suggest that you go to 1775 from Thursday to Saturday. You can go all 3 days if you want. They're open 10 a.m. until they're sold out, and 11 a.m. until they're sold out. Online ordering turns off at 10 a.m. 1775txbbq.com is the website, or call them up 979-492-6241.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Lucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan, or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Lucci sent you by.
Is this a Nick Savage special? What song is this?
Heck yeah, it is. I can't remember the band, but it's a hair metal band. The song's Loaded Gun. I put it on there, but I cannot remember the band. Oh, it's going to bother me.
If anybody gives me, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't say the word I want to say. If anybody gives me static about Bad Bunny and we hear that again, okay? Bad Bunny, whatever that was.
Mad Margaret, that's the band.
Are you serious?
Emily. Yeah.
I had an Aunt Margaret.
I bet she was mean.
She was bad.
Yeah, she was bad. TexAgs Live, we're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Bumpy's Catering Hotline and talk to Chris Lee, who's a Vandy insider. You can find his work at Vandy247.com and Southeastern 16. A good friend of Olin Buchanan's. I worked with him in my Rivals days. Chris, good morning, buddy.
Hey, good morning to you guys.
Hey, so super worried from an A&M perspective about this Vanderbilt game because A, I get worried about every game, and B, this is the kind of game that, a team struggles on the road. I've seen Vandy, but I know they've beaten big-time opponents. Help me understand Vandy on the road, what I need to worry about, and maybe some areas that A&M can expose them.
They are an interesting team, guys. I think they're a good team. I don't think they're a great team. I think right now, if you pick the field of the NCAA tournament, they're deserving. But they are a team that, particularly on the road, is vulnerable to big spurts. I've seen them blow, close to 20-point leads and lose games. They blew, a 16-point lead against Tennessee. And, look, some of that is just the league that we're in, right? You see games called very differently in the second half than you do in the first half. And the games, I feel like fouls are always called disproportionately on big men. And that is where they are really hurting, guys. They're the two things that they have that most pass for big men are Devin McLaughlin, who's 6'7", and Jalen Carey, who's 6'8". Now, look, I think they're both really good players, but you look around the league, most teams have guys that are 6'9", 6'10", 6'11", that are rim protectors. They don't really have that. And when those guys get in foul trouble, they have to go to J.Q. Roberts, who's really not an SEC player, but he's the best they got because they've got a McDonald's All-American transfer in Kajani Wright, who I don't think was as good as the hype out of high school, but he could stand there at 6'11" with long arms and help them. So I think they're a team that's not a great three-point shooting team. Sometimes when Tyler Nickel gets on the heater, he can hit 5 or 6, and when he does, they win the game. But when he's not hitting, when their bigs are getting in foul trouble, when Jason Edwards isn't carrying them, which he can also do, then it starts to look a little ugly on the road, like it did at Oklahoma a few weeks ago, or like it did in the second half at Tennessee. But when it goes well, and I think Mark Byington's done a really good job of getting parts, this whole team, basically, other than Roberts, who only plays when he has to, is new. And when it's going well and the parts are fitting, they're a team that can push just about anybody any given night. When it's not going well, something can happen to them, like they lead at halftime and lose by 30 to Oklahoma. And I think that's the best way to explain it. And again, a lot of that, not all of it, but a lot of that relates to, do their bigs stay out of foul trouble, or are they in it? Because when those things happen, there are two different scripts.
So A&M is going to try to push it inside, either on the drive or just dumping it into
Farrell.
To Farrell Payne. Hey, Chris, Olin here, in case you didn't hear. So you feel like Vanderbilt has done enough to get into the NCAA tournament? Does that mean that they don't have to approach this game as a must-win?
See, it's a pet peeve of mine. I think this time of the year, the every night jostling for this and that, and this team moved off the bubble. Joe Lenardi's first team out to his last team in, or last bye to whatever. I think that's missing the point. I think you probably got, 25 teams, maybe 30 that they don't win another game and they're in the tournament right now. Vanderbilt's not in that group, so I don't really care. Right now, I think Lenardi has them, not even the last 4 byes. I think they're a 9. But look, you lose tonight to A&M. You lose to Missouri on Saturday. You lose to Arkansas. You lose to Georgia. Those are the 4 remaining games, and Georgia's on the road, guys, and Florida found out how tough that was last night. It's not going to matter, I don't think. Now, look, you win tonight, you're in great shape. Are you safe? I don't know, man. I think you win 2 and you have no worries. I think you win 1 and maybe you're in. And look, that's a tough 4-game stretch. Like if they win 2 of these last 4, they've done a really good job. But, you lose all 4. I think, maybe you go to the tournament in Nashville and say maybe they can play their way in. But like as A&M found out, what was it, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
I don't know that the committee even looks at the tournament, which is stupid. Why do you play the games? So look, that's more than you bargained for. My answer is, yeah, I think they're in right now. I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me because they've got to do some more work. And I think tonight is probably the toughest of the tasks they have for various reasons. But if they take care of that, then all they got to do is probably win 1 of the next 3. If they don't, then win 2 or 3 and you're probably okay. But I think, to me, it's more, I don't really care what everybody says right now. The fact is they've got more work to do, and tonight is an opportunity.
So I'm looking at some of the talent on the roster, and I see Jason Edwards. I remember when he was playing last season, he had 5 30-point games. Our Tom Schuberth wrote a whole breakdown on his game. He's a great three-point shooter, shoots 37%. The Aggies are vulnerable with the three-point shot. Talk to us a little bit about his game, and does he need the ball in his hands to score? Is he an off-the-ball scorer? Tell me a little bit about Jason Edwards.
I think he's a better on-the-ball than off-the-ball scorer. But, man, this kid, he may be the best kid in the league at getting off a shot. Like, he had one from the corner against Tennessee, what was it, last weekend, where, like, you're kind of watching the game, and if you've watched thousands of basketball games, or hundreds or whatever the number is, as most of us have, you kind of intuitively know when a guy can get off a shot and when he can't. He did something off an inbound pass where he got off a shot from the corner that I only could believe he got off, but it went in. He is just one of these rare guys that you could put 3 people on him and he could still make a shot when it's going well. But he's also slight. He's not the most durable kid. He's not, like Wade Taylor can play 38 minutes a night or whatever. That's not Jason Edwards so far. And he got knocked to the floor, which happens a lot in the Ole Miss game. I'm sitting around the gym after the game. I'm watching him walk out with family. He is walking pretty gingerly out of that building to the point where we were wondering if he'd be on the injury report tonight, and if so, would he play? Because they went through this once with Mississippi State. He got knocked around at LSU, came out of the game, came back in, didn't play well. They played in the Mississippi State game. Not only was it the only game this year that he hasn't hit double figures, he went scoreless that night. So when he is not well, it's a different ball game, and I'm a little questionable about that tonight. Like, is he playing because that's what guys do when you got 4 games left in the season and you're trying to get into the tournament? But, man, when he is healthy, he has a headache, and you can get a hand in his face and bigger guys on him and everything, and he can still make shots. He is really something else to watch when it's going well.
Hey, Chris, why is Vandy so much more successful this year after the Stackhouse debacle? Yeah. Thank you. We're on the same.
I think you answered the question within the question. I have a rule about coaching hires. Look, there are coaching hires all the time that look like they're good hires, and they just don't work out. You guys have covered some of those. Like on paper, it was the right call, just for whatever reason it didn't work out, right?
What could you possibly be referring to, Chris?
Well,
go on.
Yeah, I can think of a couple, right? But, I mean, yeah, and look, here's the thing. NBA coaches have a lousy track record of success in college basketball, or ex-NBA players who get coaching jobs who've really never had them before. And that was one thing that, like, everybody knows. And then when you hear an off-the-stuff record, my rule is when you can name the 3 or 4 reasons that a hire is not going to work out within 2 weeks of a guy having a job, it was a really terrible hire. When Candace Lee got the job and kind of took the job from Malcolm Turner back in 2020, one of my first things would have been to say, hey, buddy, you ride out the season, but we're getting rid of you. It just was the work ethic was not there. The temperament was not there. I mean, there are just stories coming out my ears of just stuff that you're just going, why is this guy the coach? And they went out and got a guy in Mark Byington, who I think is a very good basketball coach. You look at his track record, you're like, well, he didn't do much at Georgia Southern or James Madison in terms of making the postseason. Well, look at those teams' basketball histories. They don't go to the NCAA tournament. He had those teams competitive every year. I just think they went out and got a basketball coach this time, whereas last time they went out and got a personality. Okay. And I think you're seeing the difference. It is amazing, guys. The top 9 guys on his roster were all guys, except for Tyler Tanner, who's a freshman I'll give Stackhouse credit for one thing. He found Tyler Tanner, and he's a really good player. But to rebuild that roster in the offseason from the mess that he was left and to get them to the verge of the NCAA tournament, I think most years, and this year, look, it's going to go to Bruce Pearl or maybe Dennis Gates, and those are fine and fair. I think most years Mark Byington would be at the top of the list of coaches of the year in this league, and I think that kind of honor most years would be deserved.
Chris, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
See you in a few weeks.
That's Chris Lee, Vandy 247. Does really good work. All right, let's hit a break here. When we come back, we will not have Eric Solis, but we will have Tom Schuberth on the program. The coach is going to give us his perspective, his scouting report for this one. Right now, though, we're talking about Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. When you're looking for business vehicles, you should go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet, business elite dealer. They'll help you out with your fleet, right? They can take care of you there. When you're just a normal guy or normal family trying to get something better, bigger, smaller, whatever it may be, let Caldwell Country Chevrolet be the place that you go to because of their great deals, their great trade-in value, and of course that extreme, one of the best customer service out there. They have complimentary pickup and delivery for your oil and service changes, and they also take care of you in many other ways. They've got complimentary pickup, all the great things. Caldwell Country Chevrolet's got a committed staff with many years of experience, and they are the premier dealer for commercial vehicles for all of your small business needs. We're talking 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. So whoever's running the music now, if it's Emily, great job. TexAgs Live, we're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, talking a little basketball. I didn't realize Craig Sager was coming to studio, but your wife had to buy you that. That is nice.
No, my wife's on me because it's a little bit dirty. So
it looks great.
When you wear white, you get dirty.
You look good.
Especially me with the way I eat and stuff. But.
Tom Schuberth with us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, thank you.
So you asked me at the break, and I think we'll start off with that, how I feel about everything, right? And I told you my opinion about A&M basketball has not changed, right? I am in the exact same place I was a couple weeks ago. The difference is I don't feel good after a couple losses, but when it comes to what they're going to do in March, my opinion has not changed. They are a team that if they hit some shots, they're going to win some games. And if they don't, they're going to lose a lot of games. They're going to lose early like that. And that's who they were, I think, a month ago. That's who they are now. Just right now, they're taking on the meat of their schedule, the toughest part of their schedule. And they aren't firing in one area or another against a very good Mississippi State team, which was their worst loss, and the best defense they faced. And yes, they had a chance, but they didn't finish.
Correct. I haven't changed either. In fact, fans a lot of times, not coaches, they get too high when things are going good and they get too low when they're going bad. And I think the coaches and even the players keep that level head because they know their identity and they know what's ahead of them. The one thing that confuses me a little bit, I do think they're one of the most dangerous teams in the country when they're shooting the ball really well. But how many times have they done that? If any 2 or 3 guys can start making some threes consistently in one particular game, they would be almost unbeatable. However, their identity is they're the best offensive rebounding team in the country, and you only get offensive rebounds when you miss shots. So that's their strength. I never worry about them missing shots, but I want the back end to be good, meaning they've got to get the second and third shot, and then they got to convert those into points. So I'm rambling here, but when like Garcia and Washington take threes, I know they make some, but I really believe the opponent is that's what they want them to do.
Sure.
That takes them off the offensive board, which is what they do better than anybody in the country. So I think they're kind of a catch-22 there a little bit offensively.
Yeah, and it's odd because Garcia made the most threes in the last game. Yeah. I think he was 2 or 3. But so what do you do as a coach when your opponent is basically inviting you to shoot the three and you're not making them?
I think you turn it down. You act like you're covered. A lot of times, I've had it done to me when I was playing college ball, and it's very frustrating. A player never really worries about missing a semi-contested shot. It's not like it's glaring. But when you miss a wide-open shot, it messes with you psychologically.
Sure.
The fans are going, man, what is he doing? Get him out of the game. The coaches are a little frustrated with you. So it's the job of the coach to get good shooters open shots. It's the players to understand what's, in the words of Coach Williams, a predictable shot and what's not. And I think that's a learning process that goes on all year. And then you've got to kind of ride the pony that got you there.
Yep.
If you're going well, shoot it. If not, pass up the open shot. And I would like to talk about the oppositions. When the oppositions make that extra pass from a good shot to a great shot, that's when I think A&M struggles because now they have another rotation, and that's what good teams do. And I felt like Tennessee did a good job of that. Of course, the one young man got on fire, but that's part of their identity and how you beat A&M.
Well, and also, if you look at the Tennessee game and how it could translate for the last few games, their best did great, A&M's didn't do great. Wade Taylor, I know he had the points, but he struggled. He struggled in that game. He's not always going to struggle. I think Wade has earned the right for the green light that he gets. I just wish sometimes they were more in the flow of the offense as opposed to forcing it. But I also know he's trying to find his shot. So what's the balance for Buzz, and how he explains that to Wade?
And I would love to ask that same question, David. What is the flow for Wade? I know he has the green light, and he very well should. He's the best shooter. But is it because, and I try to watch and see what other teams do defensively. I actually had a chance to talk to Mississippi State staff. But are they really focusing on Wade and taking that away? I know initially that's how it starts. But then in the flow of the game, you miss assignments. So is it the defensive strategy and of the other teams that's making Wade struggle? Or is he just not shooting it well? I wish I had the answer, and I'm sure Buzz does too. But I've heard you several times, you and Obi, talk about we're waiting for that game, we're waiting for that game. I thought it would be a long time ago. But I think he will find that range and, his confidence will come back. I think he struggles with his confidence a little bit. As great a player as he is, I think players do that sometimes, and it's not going great for him. So.
And Obi's got a question for you, but I don't think he shows it, though. You're probably right, but I think he does a good job of masking it.
Absolutely. And he's all team. Again, I don't think he cares whether he gets 2 points or 20 points. He just wants his team to win, and that's the sign of a great player and a leader.
So what do you do as a coach when you got a guy who's had success, he's your best player, all those things, and he's really struggling with his shot? Do you just say, hey, shoot your way out of it? Or do you ever finally have to say, hey, you need to give it up? I mean, how do you respond to that?
When good players or mediocre players or even great players struggle shooting the ball, they usually try to get them to the free throw line because that builds your confidence, and then only taking great shots. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Again, I'm not in practice every day. I don't know what the conversations are. But if you're a really good shooter and you're taking good shots, eventually you're going to make them. But great shooters can take poor bad shots and never get on a roll. So I think Obi maybe turn down a couple looks that are good and wait till you get a great one. And eventually, the more passes, the more opportunity the defense has to break down. And I think that's the formula to beat A&M. And I hope sometimes A&M will do that when they're playing an elite defensive team. Like I thought Mississippi State and Tennessee did a really good job defensively, but we just didn't make a couple threes when they were needed.
Let's do this. Let's hit a break. We'll come back. We'll have a short segment on the other side talking Vandy. Right now, we're talking about the Association of Former Students. Did you or someone you know graduate from A&M within the last 12 years? And are they leading by example in business and in service? Then the Association of Former Students would like to invite you to nominate yourself or someone that you know for the 12 Under 12 Award. Each year, they recognize a dozen Aggies who have graduated within the last 12 years for their business accomplishments, civic or military service, philanthropic efforts, and outstanding representation of A&M's core values of excellence, integrity, leadership, loyalty, respect, and selfless service. Previous year honorees have included leaders in business, higher education, architects, petroleum, engineers, nonprofit executives, physicians, veterans, and members of the U.S. Armed Forces. 2025 nominations close on Saturday, March 15th, so be sure to submit that nomination soon. To learn more about the recognition and submit a nomination, visit tx.ag/12 Under 12 nominations. Everyone, David Nuño here in a moment right now for Snaps Clothing. They are the makers of the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snap shirts. I'm wearing it right now. This is part of their Tailgater collection. It's built for game day. My friend Edgar over there is doing great work. You've got to check out the clothing. It's the Pearl Snaps. It's the cool look. It's kind of hip, but also Western. You'll love it, and they have great stuff there. They'll keep you comfortable as you're repping your Aggie gear, and it's the place to go to get it. Whether you're watching the game from home or tailgating before watching the stands, these shirts have you covered. Head to snapsclothing.com. That is snapsclothing.com to gear up for the season. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. The Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Couple minutes left here with Tom Schuberth in studio. All right, Tom, Vandy, should I be worried?
Typically, yes, but I think under the circumstances with a 2-game losing streak, I think A&M will be super focused. But to me, I'm big on matchups, at least the little knowledge that I have of A&M and what teams give them problems. Teams that have good perimeter play, that pass the ball really well, they will have a lot of excellent ball handling, skilled players. And they shoot the three a lot, but they don't shoot it extremely well, but they're capable of doing it. So, yes.
They got that one guy that can shoot some threes.
Yes,
right?
they do. And the young man that transferred in from North Texas is their best player, which is amazing. He started out at an NAIA school and then redshirted, then went to junior college. Jason Edwards, and had a phenomenal year for North Texas. But I know Vandy went to the portal, had a lot of NIL money. That was the big talk when they first started building their roster last year, and he's fit them in well. And they're a good team. I mean, they're not going to beat themselves, so let me put it that way. So you have to go in there and take it, and particularly on the road, as you know, it's a whole different animal playing at Vandy and them going on the road. They're 1-6 on the road in the SEC, and overall they haven't had any signature wins. They beat LSU their first road game of the year.
I think A&M wins in any game if they shoot at an acceptable level. The question is, what is an acceptable level?
Sure.
But I know 17.5, 17.9 at 5/3 is not an acceptable level.
Do you feel like, though, David, we talked about the Texas game, our first home game here against them. We were 2 for 22 from the three and won by 20. I mean, we've done that a lot, and I think we can continue to do that. Just think it's.
I don't think they can continue to do that and win. I don't. I know they have.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you can drive home drunk and get home. I don't advise it.
That's a good analogy there. Well, I don't think they're trying to go 2 for 22, but again, I think they can't put so much pressure on themselves to make the three-pointer to think they're going to win that I think it makes you shoot worse.
Tom, good stuff, man. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. That's Tom Schuberth. When we come back on TexAgs Live, we'll go to the Combine. Johnny Harris. That and more is TexAgs. trying to figure out where Johnny Harris is sitting because I've been there at the Combine several times when I worked at my previous place. It's is that the hallway right outside, Johnny? Where are you? I don't hear you. That's unfortunate. I don't know if that's on our end or your end. John Harris, by the way, the professor, also Houston Texans sideline reporter and footballtakeover.com founder with us here on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. I think Nick will give me the okay once we get Johnny back on the program, but I did not hear him a moment ago. But I've been there many times. It's kind of it's weird. It's a very cool event to be a part of because you get a lot of time with that part of it. I really love. But it becomes a grueling couple days when you're there, because you start, call it 7 a.m., which is normal for this job, but and then you're just going from interview to interview to interview, to activity to activity to activity, to catching up with other media, trying to get whatever insider information you can get. So the whole thing is a process, no doubt. And I love going to the Combine, but I do get sick of it in a couple days. There's no doubt. Look, there's a couple storylines that we're chasing at the Combine. We got him? Johnny, you there? Nope, we don't have him. We're going to have Brian Broadcasting call John Harris because I can't hear him. So that's unfortunate. So just call him real quick. We'll get him here on the program. But I like going, and I forget the name of the place where you get the shrimp cocktail. Why is it escaping me? It's a very famous place in Indy. It is like an $85 shrimp cocktail that I could not afford on my own, but I've had before, and it is fantastic. So whatever, we'll get to that here in a moment. I know that Brian Broadcasting is getting Johnny Harris on the program, and we should get him here in a moment. In fact, he's on the Buppy's Catering Hotline again. Johnny, do you hear me? It's like an $85 shrimp cocktail, right? Johnny, I remember going with you. We went separately, but we hung out quite a bit together at the 2014 one. Jadeveon Clowney and Johnny Manziel. How much has the Combine changed in those 10 years? 11 years. I was at that one. That's right.
just massive. It's just gone from this, well, it's this little event in Indy in some sense, to in the 10 years, or now this is my 11th combine because we didn't have one in 21 because of COVID. I've seen this thing grow from a few hundred people, a few video tables, to, oh my God, everybody that's got a podcast, everybody that's got a draft website or writes one word about the draft is here in Indianapolis. And it's really just, it's the nexus. It's like where you want to be. If you're a football guy or football girl, you want to be here. You want to, I see things that are happening on Twitter, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was listening to an interview just today. I was over there, you run into this guy, you run into this coach, you see coaches, that you haven't seen in a while. There's Mark Vandermeer talking to Aaron Glenn, the new Jets coach, and they know each other from their time with the Texans, and we see coaches that have gone on to different places. And then, yesterday we got a chance to talk to Mika Ryans with the Texans. In a few hours, we'll talk to Nick Caserio, GM of the Texans. We get those interviews here. We get them in their environment, and it's just cool. It's just where you want to be. And me, David, I've always loved, this league, this game, and the guys that play it, the guys that coach it, the guys that are around it, the guys that talk about it. So I love being able to, kind of rub elbows like, there's a prospect from Oklahoma State. There's Ollie Gordon. Hey, there's Paul Allen, the voice of the Vikings. Like, all these people that touch this game in some way are all here, and that's really, really cool, including some Aggies that are here.
Well, Johnny, if I remember correctly now, since I was wrong about 14, it was 15 where the Texans took Kevin Johnson, and I believe Jameis was the big talking point at that combine.
Yeah, Jameis and Marcus Mariota. And I remember DP Sitter, my good friend, our table was near. Now, we had 3 podiums, and they had 3 podiums in a bunch of these rounds. I'm sitting in one of these round tables here in Indy, and they had maybe like a dozen round tables, and then they would have 3 podiums, and they would bring the best of the best up to the podium. And so I remember when Marcus Mariota was going to speak at the podium, there were people, they set up kind of this, like outdoor, like they had light stanchions and stuff, so there was good lighting so people could use it on TV and, use the audio for radio, all that. There were people climbing up the stanchion to, like, watch the interview because there were so many people that wanted to hear what Marcus Mariota had to say. And God love Marcus, but he hasn't said an interesting thing in his life. But they all wanted to be there to see it, and it was like, okay, we got to move this thing. And then a year or two later, they moved to the convention center. They got 8 podiums. They've got like 12 round tables, and everybody talks. And so it's just kind of interesting. I, in fact, was just around the player podiums, and they've got 4 on one wall, and they got 4 on the other. And then at podiums 5, 6, 7, and 8, it went Jamon Johnson, former Georgia linebacker, Smile London, current Georgia linebacker, or former, I guess now. Then somebody, I can't remember who it was. And then the final guy was Jalen Walker, Georgia linebacker. And I'm like, Georgia. Like, you kind of get the point. And it's going to happen like that with, A&M, with all the guys that they have here, especially on the defensive line. And I think all those guys are talking today at some point. But I think they did kind of edge and some of the outside linebackers earlier. So I think both Shamars, will speak later this afternoon. So that'll be interesting. And I know everybody wants to see Shamar Stewart work out. He's a freakazoid. What does he post? And I think we're going to hear his name a lot this weekend for what workout he puts together over the next couple of days. Because I think he, at 281 pounds, I think he was at the Senior Bowl. I mean, he's going to put on a show. And that's just going to get people that much more excited about what he can do. And then Nick, of course, and I ran into Nick's agent at the airport, and he's excited, obviously, about what Nick can do and how he does in testing. So to me, the guy that I think would be interesting to watch is Shamar Turner. And I think he would be a really good fit with the Texans, needing some interior defensive line help. He's got some twitch off the football. I mean, I think he's got good, strong hands, very athletic. I think Shamar Turner could be a guy that would be in play for the Texans at some point in this draft.
Talking to John Harris here on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Johnny, I don't have the quote in front of me, but Andrew Berry basically said he has no interest in trading Miles, and he expects them to be here, that they're all frustrated with what's happening in Cleveland, but he expects them to be a Brown. Sounds to me like, of course he'd like to keep him, but part of the whole negotiation thing, make it look like that you're not going to get rid of him, try to get more.
Oh, absolutely. Now, there's going to be a market for Miles, I can tell you that. I had dinner last night with my buddy Sal Capaccio, sideline reporter of the Bills, and he's like, man, you had Myles Garrett to the Bills, and look at what we could do. Like, you had no bleep, Sherlock. You had Myles Garrett to Will Anderson to Neil Hunter. Look what we could do. But we just don't have the wherewithal. Where the Bills make sense is they've got extra, I think they got extra second-round pick. And I think that came from us with the Stephon Diggs deal. I think they have that extra second. So they've got 2 seconds and a first. So they've got a little extra draft capital. Now, they got to decide to do with their other Aggie right now. That's Von Miller. So we'll see how that all plays in. But there's going to be a market for Myles, and I think the Browns are just continuing to develop that market. But Andrew Berry's saying the right things. In 2021, Nick Caserio gets a job, and one of the first questions he is asked on Zoom is, what are you going to do about Deshaun Watson? He's like, nope, Deshaun's our guy, sticking with Deshaun. And then Nick played the long game, and that's what Andrew Berry's going to have to play. He's going to have to play the long game because here's what's going to happen for Andrew Berry. I mean, not that GMs are concerned about legacy and all that. Maybe they are, but Andrew Berry will have been the guy that made the worst trade in the history of the NFL for Deshaun Watson, and then he will have traded a Cleveland icon in Myles Garrett. And that's a tough matzo ball to swallow, but Andrew Berry's driving up the price, and I don't think there's any question. But there's going to be a market because if the Commanders want him, well, hell, then the Eagles want him because they don't want him with the Commanders. And think about how good the Eagles end up being if they add Myles Garrett to the mix. I mean, my goodness, the Eagles are going to lose Josh Sweat. They're going to lose Milt Williams more than likely to free agency. So, hey, let's replace him with Myles Garrett. So there's just a lot that goes with the trade with Myles. You obviously, A, have to come up with a trade, and then B, you got to work out the money. And so there are a number of factors that go into it, but Andrew's just doing what he's supposed to. And I was actually standing between Andrew Berry and I think it was Quessy, the GM for the Vikings. I was kind of listening, and I heard Andrew Berry say, oh, no, Myles Garrett is staying a Brown. But he's playing the game, and that's what he has to do. And my guess is that there are going to be teams calling this week or running into him in the hallway or making their inroads with Andrew at some point, like cornering him at St. Elmo's and ordering him a drink and then say, hey, let's talk about Myles. So there's going to be some of that. That's, but Andrew's doing the right thing. He's not saying, we don't want him. I mean, he's doing the right thing to get maximum value back. And I think if there's anything that we learned from the DeAndre Hopkins trade and we learned from the Luka Doncic trade, when you have a dude, and probably more Luka than DeAndre. DeAndre was still a great receiver, but Luka is one of the faces of the league. And I think that's what Myles was on the defensive side of the ball. Like, you can't give him up for peanuts. I mean, when we traded Deshaun Watson, it was like, all right, we got 4 teams battling. Here's what we're looking for. Can you give us this? And then Nick Caserio used that trade, and then other mixes of trades to come up with Will Anderson, to come up with Tank Dell, Damian Pierce. They're all kind of tangentially connected to that Deshaun Watson trade. So I'm sure Andrew Berry looks at it from the other side and says, look, I'm going to trade Myles. I'm going to get something for it. I'm going to get 2 first-rounders. I'm going to get this. I'm going to make sure that I can then use the draft capital I get from that trade to build this Browns team back up and do it the right way. So he's playing the game. I think this will be one that probably goes a little further than the combine. It's going to go for a little bit. But I think, and here's the hard part, because Myles has been so great to the city of Cleveland. I mean, Andrew, I would imagine, wants to do right by Myles, but he has to do right by the Browns first and foremost. So it's going to be interesting to watch for sure, but I think Myles will be somewhere else. I mean, there's been talk about Dallas and teaming up with Micah Parsons, which could be all kinds of interesting. Myles going back home. But the Bills make a lot of sense, but if I'm Myles, man, if there's a way I can get to Philadelphia, holy cow, go win a ring, be a stud for Philly, man, they'll build a statue for you right next to Rocky.
So let's say they get Travis Hunter. Andrew Berry says that he sees him more as a wide receiver, but he can play both ways. What do you see from Travis Hunter?
Yeah, I think he can play both ways. Now, I wouldn't recommend it 100% of the time, but I do think that he can play more plays in a game than guys that play one side of the ball. And what I mean by that is, let's say he plays just corner. Well, he might get 60 defensive plays in a game, but he plays receiver for 30 plays. Now he gets 90 in a game, which is going to be more than anybody's going to have, but he can handle it. What you don't want to do with Travis Hunter, especially his rookie year, is you don't want him playing 150 plays a game like he was doing at Colorado. You just don't. And I joked with our buddy Sean Pendergast, David, this is back a ways. He's like, what do you think of Hunter? And we kind of got on this conversation. I said, if I was Nick Caserio, I'd give up a bunch and I'd go up to number 2 and get Travis Hunter. And then I would make him my second wide receiver, and I would make him my third corner. So he didn't have to play every down, but you play so much nickel and then put him in passing situations. So you end up getting him 40 reps offensively. You give him 45 defensively. He's playing more reps than anybody else on the field, but you can value at 2 spots with one guy, and that always helps your cap. It always helps your 48-man game day roster. And you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and you're not driving him into the dust with 150 plays like he was playing at Colorado. And I've talked to scouts at the Senior Bowl. I've talked to scouts throughout the process, and they're like, hey, I watched Travis, and there are plays a receiver where he just kind of like jogs through the motion. And then that's what you don't want. Not in this league. You can't do that. So I do think you can use him on both sides of the ball, but I think you have to be judicious in how you give him the reps to be able to do that on a week-by-week basis. And, of course, you'd like to get the ball in his hands as much as possible, but I think he's tremendous at both positions. I know some people are like, he's more a DB than wide. I think he's great at both. And I just drool because I think our situation would be tremendous because we've got Nico. He doesn't have to be the number 1, so he's the number 2 wide receiver. Doesn't have to play every down. If he ends up being your third corner, you move Kamari Lassiter inside, let Travis outside, Kamari inside, and Derek Stingley on the outside, and man, you'd be ready to rock on. But obviously you can't get up to number 2 to make that pick. But I think a team that does it right is going to end up using him about that way. 85, 90 snaps, split up on both sides of the ball, fourth quarter. And that might be that, David. You might, hey, we're going to play on offense for the first couple quarters, see how it goes. And then your offense and defense for the second half. Big games, you're going to be out there, as much as humanly possible. Super Bowl, if you're feeling good about it, we'll give you more reps. But I play him at both. I think he's tremendous. I think he's a tremendous player. I think his cover corner skills, he's so smart. It's more than just man-to-man. Like, his zone instincts are really, really good. I mean, phenomenal. And he's got great hands and great ball skills, and his ability and body control, he's got all that. So I would play him on both sides of the ball. I feel comfortable. I'm just not doing it 100% of the time.
Johnny, last thing for you. Jim Harbaugh, which I think he says this because he probably believes it because he's his coach, but he also says it to kind of drum up support, says that there's no doubt in his mind that Justin Herbert's one of the greatest quarterbacks ever.
Yeah, I mean, look, Justin's got as much ability as any quarterback I've ever seen. I mean, you stand next to the guy and you're like, oh my God, this dude's legit 6'6". He's 240 pounds. You listen to the ball come out of his hands, it's like, it's powerful. But it just hasn't come together. Like in our playoff game, you could see it. He was completely rattled. That's happened in both playoff games. And the one thing to be that great quarterback is you have to produce in those times, and he just hasn't done that. And I think that's what's holding him back. And look, I think the other thing too is I think Harbaugh plays mind games is not right. He's not I don't know if that's the right way of saying it, but when he was in San Francisco, he had Alex Smith, and Alex had struggled. They'd had 5 different offensive coordinators his first 5 years. And Harbaugh comes in, he builds up Alex Smith, he builds up his confidence, he gets him to play, and Alex Smith goes to the damn Pro Bowl. And I guarantee you that was playing mind games with Alex Smith. Like, you may not be that guy, but you're my guy, and I'm going to build you up, and I'm going to cheer for. I'm going to be your biggest champion, and that's what he's doing. I think with Justin Herbert, I think Herbert needs that. Herbert's not kind of the rah-rah, getting everybody's face kind of guy. Kind of, negative things impact him, and we saw it in the playoff game. And so I think he's playing that. What I think he's really saying is, this is my guy. I'm going with him. He's wildly talented, but he also, the one thing he's not saying, which he kind of is saying, is it's not time to produce. He's got to produce in big spots. And if not, then this experiment is going to run its course in the next couple of years, and Harbaugh's going to get his own guy a couple of years from now. But you talk about talent. You could argue that there is no more physically gifted quarterback in the NFL than Justin Herbert. I mean, maybe Josh Allen, maybe Lamar for a different reason. So when you talk about God's gift to quarterbacks, Justin Herbert's that. It's just he's got to start producing in playoff games because he's had 2 absolute duds in the playoffs. And we talked to their play-by-play guy yesterday, Matt Money Smith, who's awesome. And Matt said the same thing. He's like, Herbert's tremendous. He's got every athletic gift you want. But he better start performing in the playoffs, or he's going to end up with that tag. Talented dude, can't get him past the first.
Johnny, great stuff, man. Thanks so much for your time.
Love you, brother. Talk to you later. Bye.
Hugs. That's my guy, John Harris, on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Actually, not hugs. How about fist pounds? All right, let's do this. We'll hit a break. We'll talk a little track and field with Pat Henry on the other side, Trisha Ford after that, recruiting country after that, and we will talk to Kendall Rogers. So we got a lot of great stuff to get into. Right now, Bird Dog, Aggie owned and operated company creating access to hunting opportunities. If you like to hunt, you need to reach out to Bird Dog. If you thought about hunting, reach out to Bird Dog. They can help you out. They helped me out. If you have land and you're like, I want some people to hunt on my land, reach out to Bird Dog. If you have land and you're like, I don't need people to hunt on my land. What I need is to make some money. Well, they can help you optimize those tax benefits that you're not thinking about. As long as you run cattle or farming on your land, they can do it. Some of their clients are making an extra $100 to $500 per acre of land. That's what they do for you guys. They find ways to get you more money on your land, and that could be through tax benefits or it could be through hunters and hunting experiences on your land. Remember Bird Dog for all those full-service hunting experiences for your landowners, and let them help you make some money for your ranch. The website, birddogit.com. Birddogit.com. Please check it out. And we're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Time for our weekly conversation with Pat Henry, brought to you by the Brazos Running Company, your local Aggie-owned specialty running store, your local source for Viore athletic wear, duck camp apparel at the Century Square location, below the Star Cinema Grill in College Station. Coach Henry, how are you?
Yeah, good. Good to be back in.
So how was the weekend?
Weeks go quick.
Yeah. How did it go?
Good week.
Yeah.
Just preparing. I mean, it's about getting ourselves ready to go this weekend. This is the SEC championship. So everything you've done to this point, you've got to be able to call on it. Be ready to do it.
So the SEC championships, it's going to be the first time at the new facility
that we've had the SEC championships. That's right.
Yeah.
And we host again next year, in fact.
Back to back.
Yeah, back to back.
How do they decide that?
Well, it's us in Arkansas that have
the places.
Enough facility that they can put people in the stands. There's a number of schools have tracks, but they don't have big enough stands to accommodate this track meet. So ourselves in Arkansas are the only two.
So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to have here. 16 women's team, 9 of them are ranked in the top 25.
Yeah, men are about the same.
Yeah, men, I have 15 teams, 8 are ranked in the top 25.
Yeah.
Just thoughts on.
It is the way it is every year. The SEC is pretty dominant when it comes to track and field. And those figures, those things right now, they all start over this weekend. You start finding out who actually has the people to go to this next one, this national meet, and be successful. Who's going to bring enough people to be successful?
Yep.
And it starts this week, really.
Well, and also, I think I've heard you say this before, for the outdoor championships and probably the indoor championships, like the SECs can be harder than the actual national championship.
No, and this might be the, I say this, people think you're nuts when I say this, might be the best track meet in the world. Seriously, this track meet is, we'll have the best performances at this time of the year of anywhere in the world. So it's a great track meet, and it's exciting to watch. If you come in, you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised at it.
Well, let's kind of focus on some of these athletes that are going to be participating, because the team broke 9 school records throughout the regular season. Jaqueline Scott's the first name that I see on here on the 60-meter hurdles.
Yeah, JQ is tough. He was 4th at the U.S. championships last year too, besides his collegiate career. So he's a great hurdler. And he could get beat this weekend. There's some good hurdlers if he's not at the top of his game. I think that's what, as many records as we set this year, and that's about half the events almost. So it's an extraordinary year for us. We don't normally have that many records set in one year. You have to do it on this day,
right?
No matter what. And if you just get a bad start by 3/1000ths of a second over the guy next to you, you're beat.
Yep.
So I know people think that's crazy, but that's exactly true.
What about Jaya? Also in the 60-meter hurdles for the women.
She's running real well. She's run 8.0 for us, and of course that's our record, school record, and we've had some fine hurdlers over the years here at Texas A&M, but she's young. She's a Texan, and she's doing real well.
We also have on a name that we talk about often, Ahmad Robinson in the 300 meters.
Yeah, Ahmad's he's one of our main guys. If you watch him, he's a little guy, but his heart is as big as he is, and he will do some amazing things. He will make up distance if you're behind, and he can extend some distance if you're on the relay. He's one of the best quarter milers in the country right now. So he'll be fun to watch, and he's got more time at A&M too.
And Kennedy Wade?
Same with Kennedy. Kennedy has just gotten better. She's whether she can be really successful yet on a national level it is to be seen, but she continues to improve, so she has that opportunity.
Talk to me about Luca Santorum.
New, ran 1,000, ran on that school record DMR the other day, and ran the 1,200 meters on the front of it. and ran 251. That's a sub. I mean, that's 251 is hitting it, and he's good. He once again, he's another guy that very unassuming, but boy, when you put him on the track, he's big time.
And Cooper also having a nice season.
Cooper, a Texas kid, he ran 356 on that DMR this last weekend Anchor, but he's run 356 mile, 354 mile. We've never had anybody do that here, and people should come watch it, because a sub 4 minute mile is, you just don't realize what that is. You know, people that go out and jog a little bit, go out and jog 400 meters and time yourself. See what it takes you to jog around that one lap, 1/4, and then start multiplying that by 4, and then you can see what a 350, 354 would be.
And then another name in the mile is Deborah, who comes up often as well.
Deborah. She's new, but she continues to improve on the track. Whether she has got the gas right now to win this, she's a freshman. Whether she's got the speed yet, she's got the endurance. She can run long, but running a mile at this level is a little bit different. She'll run a 3K as well, so we'll see.
Do you feel that both teams are positioned well for this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I feel better about our men than I do our women right now. I think our depth is greater on the men's side than it is on the ladies' side. We have some big up front people with our triple jumper leads the country, and
Winnie B.
Yeah, and Winnie B. And we've got some good up front people, but on the men's side we have significantly more guys that are more prepared at this time of the year. This is indoor season, but at this time of the year we're more prepared. But this meet is about momentum. It is about somebody getting out there and doing something really well, and then it kind of waterfalls at times, because we're still dealing with young minds, and when they start feeling really good about themselves, they can get the best out of themselves. Sometimes it can go the other way too, and so you gotta have good momentum about those first few performances. Are pretty much dictate some things for us.
Well, and also, like, not to make it a big deal, but this is the first time that we've had indoors that have 16 teams in the SEC, so it's the expanded field.
Yeah, we've never, of course, Oklahoma and Texas are new to the field, and Texas, as you know, has always had a good program. Oklahoma has done a lot better, so both of those teams add great depth again to the SEC. Not necessarily at this kind of meet. You're running 16 teams; it's a tough field.
So, if you want to watch the best of the best, come out this weekend.
That's exactly right. If you have never experienced it, I'm telling you, if you will take a chance, go over there and come in the door, you'll see some things you just didn't know anything about, and you will enjoy it. You won't be out of whack, and you can look up the time schedule. It'll start then, and it'll finish when it says it's going to finish. It's not like we were just talking before it got started. I don't mean to say, because I coached high school for a long time too. I don't mean to say anything bad about a high school track meet, but it is a terrible athletic event because they bring so many teams to one site normally, and you're running men and women, and the time frames just get out of whack. And so parents come, people come, they watch certain events, and then they leave. And that's not the way college track works, because we shoot the gun every 2.5 minutes. I mean, something is going on.
Yep.
So you don't miss anything, and it goes very quickly.
Coach Henry, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And appreciate the Brazos Running Company. When we come back here on TexAgs Live, Trisha Ford will be in studio, talk about that 15-1 softball team. That and more. It's TexAgs. All right, we got Trisha Ford in the studio after a wonderful weekend in Florida. And I told you I was going to tell you the story. I already actually said it on the air, but I'll tell you. So my dad's in the hospital. He had hip replacement surgery. So I'm there with my daughters. And we had the Aggie baseball game on. And then we're kind of switching back and forth with your game. And there was a weather delay. And then Isla, my youngest, goes, Dad, put the softball game on. And I don't think she had watched that much softball before. And she kept on like telling me everything that was happening. She said, Dad, they're down 3-1. Now they're winning. Dad, they won the game. They won the other game. And it was just nice to see that folks that maybe don't follow softball are all in. And I bet you feel that.
Yeah, it's been good. We have to get her to come maybe be a Batgirl or something. Yeah.
She would love that.
But yeah, it's been, we had a great weekend. I feel like we're finding ways to win softball games. And so we obviously didn't execute everything, but we did enough to pull out W's, which is all that matters at this point in time. Yeah.
Y'all found a bunch of W's without Coco Woolley at short. Just first an update on her and then just what you saw from KK this weekend.
Yeah. I think Coco's going to be, she was available-ish for us this past weekend if we needed her. But I'm just not risking it. And so it's just a lower leg injury. She should be good to go this weekend. I could see myself being a little cautious, but she might hurt me at this point in time if I have her sit a little bit more. But KK's just doing what KK's been doing. She's been steady, just not acting like a freshman, like playing her game. She's been doing it offensively and defensively, and it's been that next man up mentality. But I think what also helps is Coco is her number one supporter. I had Coco, I gave her our scouting report on Sunday, and I'm like, hey, you got to make sure the infield's all ready, making sure like we're in the right coverages. And so I think when you have that camaraderie, it helps. That transition isn't as hard.
Yeah, for sure.
We talk about a short-term memory when it comes to mistakes, but sometimes in victories too, right? Yeah. Like, don't read all the press clippings. Yes, we've done something. We got something else to play for.
Yeah, and if you know me, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah. This is why I came to Texas A&M, because I felt like we could win at a high level. But at the end of the day, it's going to be May and June that really matter. So I think we are still trying to figure out, we've always been the hunter, right? We've talked about this. So how to be the hunted and how to play with that. And really you just find ways to be the hunter. Yeah. There's always parts. And that's what I'm always kind of telling the players of like, hey, remember this. Like, there's your chip right there. And so you just got to figure out nuggets to kind of get you in the right mindset. So we have a lot to prove still. We have a tough weekend ahead of us before we start conference play.
Maya Perez, SEC Co-Player of the Week. I mean, we really saw her come on last year in the Super Regional. Now she's just consistently playing at that level. Just what about her this weekend?
Yeah, she had great at-bats. So she took her walks. What's the key, when kids are doing well is, right, they have oppo power, right, middle to oppo power, and they're taking their walks when they need to take their walks. And so she's been just doing a great job of taking advantage of pitches that she can do damage with, and then not being too anxious and trying to do too much in situations and taking her walks. So she might have even had a stolen base this weekend. So she was doing it on all sides. So, just really excited for Maya. I know this is what she is capable of doing. This is why we brought her to Aggie Land. So just happy for her that things are falling into place.
I know awards don't necessarily matter, but they're nice to be recognized. I don't understand how Sydney Lessentine did not win the SEC Freshman of the Week after striking out 19 in just the start of her young career.
Yeah. So remember how we found out ways to be the hunter? There you go. There's a little nugget.
There you go.
And so
you watched The Last Dance, didn't you? With Michael Jordan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's yes, one of the best competitors of our lifetime. But yeah, and I think those are just things that drive. But she's done a heck of a job. Still have some things to tidy up. But man, like for a freshman, she's throwing lights out.
Yeah.
In game 1 against Florida State, all 6 runs came on 2 outs.
Yeah.
And then in 14 of 17 runs in the doubleheader sweep came on 2 outs. Just what does it say about your team to just be relentless almost?
Yeah, we talked about it actually yesterday at practice of just like, obviously I deal with pitching. So from a pitching standpoint, when you get to 2 outs, you're like, all right, inning's almost over, let's go. And so when you're scoring and making it, those are really, really stressful, high leverage pitches that you're forcing that pitcher to make. And so we're just doing a really good job of being relentless, being gritty, being a pain in the butt in order for innings to end. And that's why I feel like you're seeing us score runs at the end of the game because of that process at the beginning.
Talk to me about the pitching staff. 43 strikeouts, 34 innings, and you got strong performances from several people. It wasn't just Listentine.
Yeah, I think, what I'm most proud of is Emily Kennedy and Grace Sparks because Kennedy threw really well. If you watch that game against Florida State, they just literally hit, I think their highest exit velo was 53 to 55, but like right in spots that we were not. And so she responded really well. And we had talked prior to that game that she was going to start. We were going to probably put somebody in the middle, and then she was going to be ready to close. And it ended up, she closed, the second game, but she just did a great job of keeping her composure. I feel like a younger Emily would have gotten mad, right? And just let things kind of take out of control, spiral out of control. I thought Grace did a tremendous job, came in, shut them down, kept those bats. Florida State is one of the most high-powered offenses in our game, and so she just kept those bats at bay. She came out and just executed her pitches, and then obviously in Game 2, Sydney Peters finally worked the correct zone for her repertoire, and Emily came in and shut it out. So it was a good game.
Y'all played such high level of competition already before your non-conference. Oklahoma State, you play Florida State, and then this weekend you have number 12 Texas Tech. Just what does it say about your team to be able to fight through and win some of these games in different ways?
Yeah, I think it says a lot. I think, we had talked about how confident they are. I think this is why they're confident. They feel from top to bottom. They feel as the game goes on that they're figuring things out. We are in year 3, so I think there's some pieces with that. But sometimes I don't know if my heart loves all of it, but it's getting us ready for conference. We're about ready to really enter in the every single weekend grind, and I think we're going to be really prepared for that.
Yeah.
Can you know a team's identity this early, 16 games in?
I think you can know pieces of it. I still feel like we're going to hit some bumps, and it's going to showcase how we respond to it. But I will say that we've bounced back really well. We've had some tough, I still talk about that Okie State, Virginia bounce back. Virginia, if you watch, I think by the end of the year, they're going to make some noise. That Southeastern Louisiana, you talk about a trap game. Like you play FAMU, those games, on Friday. You play Florida State at their home, double header.
Yeah.
That was a nightmare. And then you come back and play, Southeastern Louisiana, who went extra innings against Florida State. They've gone extra innings or one-run ball games and a lot of top teams, and they're a postseason team. And so that was a trap game, and I thought we came out and responded really well.
This weekend, playing a variety of different teams. I know you've seen a lot from your squad already, but what are certain areas that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, Texas State, that's a rivalry game. They are always a thorn in our side. Coach Woodard does a great job of getting her team prepared. They're coming off a good weekend, and then I believe they played Southern Illinois on Monday and handled them pretty easy. So all of our team has played each other, like grown up playing with each other. So there's a lot of familiarity. We have the $1 Million Arm coming into town. So with Nyjah Kennedy, so with Texas Tech. So you're going to see a pretty electric showcase of, high velo. She works high in the zone, a lot of strikeouts. So we're going to have to be really disciplined in order for us to break through this weekend. And then you're going to have a couple of games that are going to, they'll bite you in the butt. Idaho State's having a good weekend, good season so far. And then Princeton usually wins the Ivy. So we're going to have some pieces, but it's going to be a full weekend.
I'm not 80 yet, so I don't look at the weather ahead, like 5 days ahead. But do we know what the weather's going to be like? Because the
70.
70.
Yep.
So that number 3 attendance in the country, we can keep adding to that,
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. Yep. We are excited to be in front of the 12th man. I feel like we haven't been home in a while. I hope we make it a very hostile environment and get after it.
Coach Ford, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you. 15-1. Let's keep it going. All right, when we come back on TexAgs, a very short segment before the hour close, it's TexAgs Live. And we are back on TexAgs Live. We've got about 2 minutes left before the hour break. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Callie, I know you always got a little tidbit for us or something good to share.
Well, we have a text from Mike, and this is back to the beginning of the show when we were talking about the predictions for all the positions in football this year. And he says, watch out for those secondary predictions. They will bite you.
As in, like, my second opinion or my actual defensive back secondary?
I believe your defensive back secondary.
Yeah, maybe. Look, I think they're going to be better.
Mm-hmm.
I think you don't have to, like, when you bring back guys that were productive for you in Will Lee, and you do have a lot of talent in Des Ricks, and you bring in Julian Humphreys, who started 10 of the 12 games for Georgia, right? Dalton Brooks, Bryce Anderson, right? I think it is reasonable to say you should expect some growth. Yeah. How do you get better at something? You do it over and over. So Des Ricks is getting more opportunities. He got thrown in the fire last year, and at the end of the season, he didn't handle USC well. He had some nice moments throughout the year. Will Lee was pretty good all season long. That all those things, I think, can start to add up. So, like, can they bite me in the butt? A prediction doesn't bite you in the butt. It's just like, I think, right? Like, I'm not Jesus. I don't know what's going to happen, right? Like, none of us do. I think a lot of us like being right. I told you the second. I choose to live my life in a worry state when it comes to Aggie sports. And also, like, I don't want to, like, be mad about everything that happened in November and December. Like, I just want to move on. It's impossible to completely move on.
Yeah.
But look, do I expect them to be the 85 Bears? No. Do I think the defensive line is going to be better than what I think some people are saying? Hopefully, right? Do I think the linebackers are going to be better? Yes. I think the linebackers will be better. I hope.
Yeah.
There's a hope, I think.
Yeah.
Do I think the secondary will be? I hope and I think. Yeah. Do I think the team is better than they were last year? I'm not there yet. Is the overall product going to be better than what we saw last year when they went 8-5? I don't know. But I think the offense will be better. I think Marcel will be better. And I think some of the other areas should be better. How that translates to wins and losses, we'll figure it out as we go. Recruiting Country next on TexAgs Live. Welcome back into TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is time for Recruiting Country, brought to you by American Momentum Bank. And they're the only privately owned bank headquartered in Bryan-College Station, and they're committed to helping our community prosper by offering you a wide array of personal and business banking solutions specifically designed to help build financial success with confidence and momentum on your side. Ryan Brauninger in studio. Double duty, Bronny. What's up, buddy?
Good morning. I had to, when you emailed me this morning, I had to recalibrate brain for recruiting.
Yeah.
Because it's been a lot of baseball. But yeah, I mean, thankful that Jason Howell has started to come on more to help us out. But I think I'm after the last few days with baseball, I think I want to talk some recruiting.
Well, baseball might come up while you're here.
We can talk about it, yeah.
Well, it might come up. So one of the notes that you wanted to get into was quarterback recruiting. It's an ongoing process. Kind of talk to me where we are.
Yeah, so obviously Helaman Kasuga has been the longtime commit. He was Colin Klein's #1 target in this cycle. He went out and got him. The staff would be more than happy than just to sign Helaman Kasuga and be done. But after last year, I think, and this has been communicated from what I understand to the Kasugas, like, hey, like, we got burnt last year by recruiting one out-of-state guy. We got very close to the end, and we were able to rally, but it's just that's not a route we want to go down again. And so what I mean by quarterback recruiting is that they are still, like, talking to guys, keeping them warm, following guys in-state and out-of-state, tracking their progress. And there are mostly in-state names that they're kind of doing their research on, but there's a quarterback out of Cincinnati, Ohio named Matt Ponatowski, who is an elite baseball player, like elite, potential MLB draft guy that has already been offered by Mike Early and Caleb Longley on the baseball side, but he has turned himself also into a really intriguing college football player and quarterback more specifically. And he's also got, he's got great athletic bloodlines. And so that's a kid out of state that they're doing some digging on, and they're obviously helping Coach Early with the recruitment on the, if the kid wants to be able to come do both, obviously right now he's further ahead as a baseball player and a prospect, but he's starting to gain some steam on the football side too. I think he was Mr. Ohio Football Player of the Year as a junior, which that doesn't happen very often. That's a pretty good football state.
Yep.
And so he's got some real ability. But, in state, you're looking at guys like Bo Bentley at Salina, Jack Dalton at the Woodlands, Keyshawn Henderson at Houston Legacy. There's probably 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the state of Texas that they are continuing to do research on. And it's a good segue into what is going on right now with the coaches not out on the road, seeing kids face to face, going to high schools. Right now, a lot of what's going on in the recruiting department and coaching department in terms of recruiting is going through the state. We've talked about this a bunch. Going through the state and making sure they are doing double, triple checks on all of these in-state guys that may have a few offers. They may have a bunch of offers but A&M hasn't pushed. Maybe A&M has offered earlier, and then they didn't get big pushes in the fall. And so they're going back through, like combing through all of their big board and figuring out, do these kids, did we miss anything? Do they have measurables that are part of our indicators of future success that maybe we missed on, or maybe they're maturing a little bit more now? I know that one of the big kind of data points that they're looking at right now are these Under Armour camps from across the country. They just had one in Dallas. I think Jason talked to you last week about that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So at these camps, they do verified measurements, broad jump, 40, 5'10", 5 shuttle, L cone. And so, like, some of these guys that may be later bloomers are putting up good times. And I think as a byproduct of that, when all that new information comes in, you could see A&M slide guys around on their big board. So there's a lot of kind of measurable and data evaluation going on right now in the recruiting room.
Talking to Ryan Brauninger here. Let's talk about some future. Are there some future camps that we're going to be seeing some opportunities?
Well, the Under Armour camps are still ongoing.
Okay.
And they are a huge, like I said, they're a huge tool for some of these colleges because all those numbers go into a database and then are disseminated, and these college coaches can get access to it, which is hugely beneficial for the kids. And there's going to be one in Houston a little bit later. There's a couple more in Houston. I think there's one more in Dallas. Maybe not Under Armour camps, but some of these big mega camp showcases. And then, as always, there will be a lot of these kids come through here this summer to go through A&M camps. There are some other camps in the state at universities. I know TCU does a good job with their camp. They provide all the kids the information through an app. As soon as you run your 40, it gets uploaded. So you have all that, and it's all verified, and you can take it and show other schools. So there are more checkpoints now throughout a recruiting cycle to track the progress of players. And I think that will help A&M get a better evaluation on these kids in the state of Texas. Because remember, going into this cycle, you really didn't know, the 25 class we felt going into their senior years was really, really good in the state. The 2027 class behind 26 already looks like it's going to be a monster. 26 was a little bit more interesting, but the data says, and history says, that there's going to be 25, 30, 35 guys from the state of Texas in this class that go to the NFL and get drafted. And so you better make sure that you're doing your due diligence in the state and finding those guys, even if you don't think the class as a whole on the surface maybe as talented as the one before and after.
So you've been doing recruiting a long time. Give me some examples of a time that a class was highly touted that maybe didn't.
2022.
2022.
Not just the A&M class.
Yeah, I'm saying in general, right?
Yeah.
And then a class that maybe wasn't so highly touted that, oh my gosh, look at the kind of talent it turned out.
What was it? Was it 2020 or the 2021 group? One of them we were like, we just don't. Maybe it was 2020 because of COVID, and or 2021 would have been the COVID class, right? Because that'd have been yeah. But one of them we were like, hey, we just don't know. And then you look at it now, like, man, the top 10 in the state, top 20 in the state ended up being real players. And there's always, you'd have to go do a lot of research rather than anecdotal. But that's kind of why this recruiting staff and, GM Derek Miller and all the guys that kind of work in that department are doing as much homework on the state of Texas kids, because they don't want to miss. They don't want to miss on an Ashton Genty. They don't want to miss on a Nick Bolton,
right?
Who's from Frisco, and A&M really didn't recruit him, and he goes to Mizzou, has an incredible career. Now he's the starting middle linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs. You got to make sure you're not missing on those guys. And the more data that they collect on what the NFL player, what are the draftable traits of NFL players, and then what are those traits that stick in the NFL,
right?
The better their evaluations of high school kids can be. It's all fluid. You're never going to get it 100% correct ever. If there was a 100% way to guarantee that you signed all the right kids, or if there was a 100% way to guarantee that when you hired coaches, they were going to work out, everybody would use that method, right? But there's not one.
So a year after, right? So the staff's been together for a little bit over a year. How much ahead are they in this kind of fact-finding data collection?
It's in a lot. They're in a lot better spot. And I just think, there's a lot of guys that came with Coach Elko from Duke. There were some guys that remained over from Jimbo's staff. There's some guys coming in from completely different areas. And so just the more you work together, the more you get a better feel of the organizational structure and how information's supposed to flow up and down. And you're fully aware now of what your connections are and your reach, both on the coaching staff and recruiting staff. And different people obviously have ties to different areas of the country. So you're always looking for ends in recruiting. And the more you get kind of a feel for who's got ends where, the better you can allocate those resources.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's talk about James Scott. He's one of the newer offers.
Yeah, James Scott. And I would include, so there's some guys that are kind of steadily climbing the ladder, whether they have offers or not. Okay. The first thing I'm going to talk about, and look, the guys like Jermaine Bishop, they're not getting any less of a push because they're reshuffling. Those guys, Jermaine Bishop is pinned into and sharpied into spot number 1 on the big board. He's an incredible player, potential two-way player at the collegiate level that is just sensationally good. He's not going anywhere. And A&M, Texas has had some turnover in their defensive staff. And so A&M, needed to use that window to make up some ground or even go past Texas. And talking to some people, I think A&M's in a pretty good spot for Jermaine. It's not going to be – they're not anywhere close to being called the out-and-out leader, or Texas has got severe work to do, but A&M has really done a good job kind of in this window. But that being said, there are some guys that I think we weren't talking about at all, or maybe very little a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, right after the 2025 class signed, that I think now are starting to emerge as really intriguing prospects for the A&M coaching staff. James Scott's one at Conroe Oak Ridge. He's kind of like an Amari Niblack in his build, where it's like either a really big outside receiver or a tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's kind of how
6'5", 220 on your write-up, yeah.
And he is like definitely like pops whenever you turn the tape on, whenever you see Conroe Oak Ridge play in person, like without a doubt your eyes go to him.
You notice him.
Big, good-looking kid, and makes plays on the ball down the field. So him, and there's a kid at Fort Bend Marshall named Caden Johnson. He goes by KK. But Caden Johnson, he's played quarterback at Fort Bend Marshall, but he's another one, like 6'6", 220-ish pounds. And he's played quarterback. He's probably not a quarterback in college, but you start looking at how he runs and the athletic ability and stuff.
You said he played basketball too, right?
Yes, he's a standout on their basketball team. That's really good. Obviously, Fort Bend Marshall kids are typically supremely athletic, and Caden's another one. So doesn't have an offer yet, but A&M's definitely doing their, we talked about these kids doing due diligence in the state. I'd add Caden Johnson to that list. Calvin Thomas is a linebacker out of Cy Ranch who they offered after going to see him in person. 6'2", 6'3", 215 pounds, has those measurables that NFL drafted linebackers have as 18-year-olds, 17, 18-year-olds. And his stock is just skyrocketing, not only with A&M, but a lot of programs across the region. And another one would be at a North Forney, Legend Bay. And I know Jason's talked a lot about Legend Bay. Legend's another one that's a quarterback in high school, but probably not one in college. But he is an elite athlete, and he posted numbers at the Dallas Under Armour camp that started making their rounds amongst coaches in the region, and including A&M, to now I think he's climbing up a lot of people's charts.
No, I know we talked about the quarterback from Cincinnati, but there's a couple other names that you wrote about. One's from a Houston legacy, Keyshawn Henderson.
Yeah, I mentioned Keyshawn, incredible kid. And I think a lot of people, at this point last year, a lot of people were looking at Keyshawn kind of in the same vein as we talked about Caden Johnson and Legend Bay. Like elite athlete playing quarterback that would, a lot of people try to project him as a receiver or a safety. He has made tremendous strides as a thrower of the football, like tremendous. His head coach is Michael Bishop, obviously a really talented quarterback in his own right. But he went to the Navy All-American Bowl and as a junior won offensive MVP at quarterback, and that's where everybody kind of went, oh, this kid does have a chance to stick at quarterback. Not only just stick, but be an elite prospect at the position. And you've seen his ratings skyrocket. Now he's committed to U of H, so the Cougars are going to have a tough time holding on to him, but they've had his commitment because they went on him all in early as a quarterback, and that paid off for them. So Willie Fritz going to have to hold off a lot of people, but I like Keyshawn. He's like really fun to talk to, always smiling, really good energy, really positive kid. He's a good player.
A couple other quarterbacks you wrote about, Jack Dalton and Bo Bentley.
Yeah, mentioned both of them. Bo Bentley, they're way behind on. I don't even think they've offered. He had a really good year at Solana, won a state championship. Reminds me, play style wise, of Baker Mayfield, like some swagger to him. And but there's a lot of chatter kind of in recruiting circles that Oklahoma was his dream school and Oklahoma offered. So I don't see that being a possibility. And Jack Dalton's like the epitome of kind of a late riser at the Woodlands. Has gone to these camps and put up some pretty impressive times athletically that maybe you don't see all the time on film, where people are going, oh, that's a way better athlete than we really thought. And so I think, TCU did a good job there. They went all in on him, got the commitment, but that's another one like Keyshawn Henderson. If the other big ones start coming in, the Horned Frogs may have a fight on their hands.
So how many commits are they at right now?
A&M, well, after the 2 decommitments, they're at, 11?
Well,
no, 10. 10, Nick?
Nick, do you have the graphic of commitments, please? And just, do you see a flurry happening soon? 9. Thank you.
9.
Nick. 9. So do you see anything in the foreseeable future? Or is
it's tough because some of these commitments have popped kind of out of nowhere. Like Jermaine Kinsler was scheduling official visits and then decided after he scheduled his official visit at A&M, like, okay, I really liked what I heard. Let's jump in the boat. But I do not anticipate anything happening until spring practices start and you start seeing guys come to campus. I know we were talking in our group chat yesterday, Jason, Cade, and I, about a couple of 7-on-7 teams, like national 7-on-7 teams coming into town and to do visits. And then obviously we've been reporting on a lot of the in-state kids that are planning spring visits to Texas A&M. But I don't anticipate anything happening, and so that would be a couple of weeks away. But we're still, the same names are the same names we're keeping an eye on, most notably Jonathan Hatton out of Cibolo Steel.
Okay. And the vibes still feel just like they did?
Yeah, when you go that heavy out of state early, you're going to lose some of them. And there's some guys still on the commitment list that, just being quite candid, they're not going to sign with Texas A&M. That's the way it goes in every recruiting cycle. But, and if you look back at what A&M did in the last cycle, Mike Elko did a pretty bang-up job in California and won some head-to-heads over Oregon. And they won more head-to-heads over Texas than people really want to believe, especially when you go look at how hard the Longhorns pushed for guys like DJ Sanders and Chase Sims late, and A&M was able to hold on to him. Marco Jones was another one that just the early returns on him on the baseball and football side, he is blowing people away. Now, long way to go between now and August camp and obviously games in September, but if you're asking for a most impressive guy on campus out of that 2025 signing class, it might be Marco Jones in both sports.
Right.
Obviously, what TK is doing as well is really impressive on the baseball side. But that group, when you go back and look at some of their head-to-head battles that they won, they know how to weather the storm. But inevitably, you're going to lose a couple.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. And so that's why I think, too, to go back to my original point to start the segment, they are going to make sure that these Texas kids, they can't let them get away. So
it goes back to the original point. Like, that's why they have to do their due diligence.
Right, in the state. And I think, too, everybody gets enamored with the transfer portal. They had influential guys on last year's team. They're going to have influential guys on this year's team out of the portal. But I still, and maybe I'm ignorant and just kind of blindly flying through this right now, but I still believe that the bread and butter of your program is signing really good players out of high school and developing them within your culture.
Okay. We'll hit a break. You got a question for Bronny? Text it at 979-693-1150. We can ask it recruiting-wise or even baseball-wise on the other side, on the YouTube channel, the TexAgs channel, or again, that 979 number, 979-693-1150. Right now, we're talking Milliken Reserve, a farm-to-table community in College Station. They've got homes, they got trails, they got farms, they got wide open spaces. And their mission is to build a healthy community around nature. They've committed to treading lightly on the beautiful land that you can find Milliken Reserve on. They've got 2,600 acres of open space. They've got 30 miles of trails, and they have homes. They have respect for their native landscape, and of course, that wildlife. An extensive network of trails throughout a wooded landscape that includes walking and equestrian paths, creeks and ponds, and gathering areas. And they have all the animals you can imagine, from the white-tailed deer, the songbirds, the rabbits, and the turtles. And homeowners at Milliken Reserve sharing a legacy of conservation, which means generation after generation will come back to that pristine countryside place. If you want more information, all you got to do is go to millikenreserve.com. That website again, millikenreserve.com. As a reminder, the final segment of the program brought to you by Double Dave's. That's at 10:50. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggieland since 1984 with your favorite pizza and, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com, and your favorites are on their way.
Pro. You didn't even look down at the copy.
I think I looked once.
No, I didn't see you look down. Pro.
It's called muscle memory.
It is, and your brain connects to the highlights.
Yeah. I'm in autopilot. I was thinking about a lot of things during that too.
Really?
Yeah, wow. I got many tabs open, just autopilot. And then sometimes if I catch myself about to make a mistake, I make the mistake.
Do you think that now that your wife is dressing you nice, that you're like getting up to your brain?
So my wife isn't dressing me.
Oh.
Okay,
that was the narrative being formed around here.
I know how this place works. It's a very sophomoric place that I enjoy because I'm above it. I think I stand out. I stand out.
That's good. I like that.
You know, I'm the one guy who is definitely different than everybody here.
That's right. Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Good. I like that.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the... Are you making fun of me too?
Romance going on over there.
Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center.
You need to pipe down.
Okay.
Bromance. Let's talk bromance.
Okay.
You and your blonde bestie back there.
No shame.
I mean, you've never seen two best friends that are quicker to throw each other under the bus than Callie Garner and Kay Nagley.
Do you guys throw each other under the bus? Never in front of me.
Constantly.
Okay, that's fine.
You know, Bronny, I, for most of my career, felt like I was in the group. You know, like the group. Because I was, like at 13, I was the younger-ish guy. I wasn't the youngest guy, but I was the younger. Here, I realized a long time ago, actually, that I'm in the elderly group, right? Like Olin and I are like outside. Billy's kind of in any group he wants to be in. But we're not invited to happy hours. We're not invited to barbecues.
But I don't care.
I'm only the joke. I'm not involved in joking with others.
Do you want to be involved in those?
No, actually, I don't at all.
Like, there's no harm, no foul.
No, I didn't say harm, but it's a realization. Like, wow, I really am almost 50. Like, as opposed to like in my mind, I'm like 30.
I just, some days I wake up and like, you're 38. You should not be acting like this. Like, it struggles for my brain sometimes to catch up that I'm almost 40.
It's going to be that way the rest of your life, buddy. You're going to be 70. Like, I still think I'm 29. Callie, I know we had a question.
Yeah, we have a chat on the YouTube page, and it says, how strong of a commit do you think Adrian Gregory is?
Aaron Gregory.
Yeah, Aaron Gregory is the kid's name. I don't know what the texter wrote, but it's another one. It's going to be tough. I mean, 5-star receiver, one of the best in the country. You got the commitment early. He's going to have Georgia in his ear. He's going to have Auburn in his ear. He's going to have Alabama in his ear. Everybody. I mean, this kid can go kind of pick his program. So that one's going to be a huge fight to hold on to. Trooper Taylor and Holman Wiggins have done a good job so far building those relationships there. They've got his teammate committed in Breeze Carter. So we'll see. Again, like nothing is guaranteed in this thing. And then especially when you get highly touted kids from out of state in the SEC footprint, and you know all the other programs in the region, like Kirby Smart's not going to let that kid walk out of his state without a real fight. So right now, it's okay, but that could change. Like it's kind of the world they're living in right now.
All right, now we turn to our attention to baseball. And I don't know if you heard any of the first segment. Look, none of us like A&M losing a midweek game. No, nobody does, right? I'm not going to overreact or panic about it. I'm just going to monitor the situation. I think the offense is going to be fine. And they got to figure out some pitching stuff, and we'll move on from that. Is my mindset, am I tracking in the right way?
Yeah, for sure. It was not the response you wanted to see after Sunday. The plan going in was to throw a bunch of arms, and they needed to do that because they didn't get the 9 innings the previous week before in the midweek because of the rain out. And you got to see what you have. You just have to do it, and you have to do it early. I would imagine next week when they've got 2 midweek games against UTSA and Texas Southern, it's going to be a kind of a similar feel. And look, when you remove Gavin Grahovic and Caden Sorrell from this starting 9, that's a vastly different team than what you thought it was going to be 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago. When you remove Josh Stewart from the bullpen, it's a vastly different bullpen than what you thought it was going to be 6 weeks ago. I'm not making excuses for how they've played. They have to play better. But it is the reality. They have not played well. They have not. No question about it. They have not played well. We've seen glimpses, but over the course of 9 innings, 18 innings, 27 innings, they haven't played to their potential, not even close. Removing 2 first-round talents and Grahovic and Sorrell is factoring into that, correct? I mean, it has to.
Has to.
Right? And you're getting guys that are uberly talented in Sawyer Farr and Terrence Kill Jr. and Jamal George at bats and playing time, but they're going to have some growing pains as well. That said, this looks like a team right now that is still forming its identity. And you know what helps form your identity, especially early in the year? Success.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's feeling good. Everybody's feeling confident. You're having fun in the dugout. You're having fun in the field. You start forming your team's personality. On the flip side, you can start forming some negative trends if you allow this stuff to snowball, right? If you allow a couple of losses to snowball into a weekend where the competition's about to ramp way up. So right now, what they're facing at 7 games into the season, nothing that I think can't be overcome at all, not even close. But what they are facing is a little bit of adversity, and how are you going to fight through it? With all the expectations, and then the injury bug hits you, all this, nobody's going to feel sorry for you. There ain't a person that's going to feel sorry for you. So if that's how you approach this thing, you're going to be in it for a while.
How's the body language yesterday?
It was okay. Again, like you listen to the dugout sounds fine, but oftentimes, like you don't really know the inner workings of the team by what you see in the dugout.
Yeah.
But they just haven't had anything to grab onto yet, like to form their identity to say, this is what this team is going to be. And then on top of that, I think you have, right now, offensively, it looks like a lot of guys going to the plate with very individualistic approaches. No, there's no team-wide approach right now. So maybe Mike Early starts implementing stuff like you have to take first pitches. You don't get the freedom to do that until we start honing in as a team on how we want to attack and how he's always kind of crafted his offenses, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what we know that they are. Jace Lavalette is getting breaking ball to death by left-handers and change-up to death by right-handers. He's going to have to hit it. Blake Benderup is getting change-up and curveball to death. He's going to have to hit it. Gavin Cash, I thought his last at-bat Sunday and his first at-bat Tuesday last night were both really good, but they were both outs. He hit the ball well. It hung up. They were both caught. From there, I thought he started over-trying.
Mm-hmm.
Hayden shot over-trying. I think Hayden's probably a little bit more mechanical, if I had to guess. But to me, the biggest moment in the game last night, A&M's trying to rally and come back, first and third, 1 out, shot at the plate in a 3-1 count, and he hits a 20-foot dribbler in a 3-1 count, which is where you're supposed to do a lot of damage. So they're just off it right now. And I know how competitive these kids are. I know what this season meant to them. I know how hard they fought to get Mike Early as their head coach. And it's just the injuries, all this stuff has caused it to be choppy, and they're not playing well.
Right.
They're not. The defense was good yesterday. Defense was really good yesterday. So going forward, I think it was pretty, I guess, unfortunate, disheartening to hear that Caden Sorrell maybe 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
But Terrence Kill Jr. is going to have to play, man. He's playing well. He's impacting the game defensively. He's impacting the game offensively. I think he's going to get the majority of those innings now until Sorrell comes back, and then you kind of figure out what's happened between now and then. But no bones about it, they got to play better. And I hate it for Coach Early because I know kind of how bad he wants it and all this. But he's also got to do some data gathering. So there's like a weird mix of all this. And what's funny is it's a veteran team with a lot of guys back, but with, you lose Montgomery, Burton, Appel, Camarillo, Aschenbeck, Cortez. That's a lot of production.
Heck yeah.
So you got to replicate that production, but you've also within that and all those returners, you've got to start finding this team's identity and what they're going to be about and how they're going to play stylistically. Because right now it just feels really individualized from an offensive perspective.
Thank you, Bronny.
Yep.
All right, when we come back on TexAgs Live, Kendall Rogers get his perspective on everything happening in college baseball and obviously the Aggies. Right now, the difference is real with Rollo Insurance. They're an independent insurance company built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for. They do the shopping for you so that you can accomplish all of your insurance goals. They can write any form of insurance to anyone, and they've got 60 offices in the great state of Texas, but their headquarters is on Highway 6 right here in College Station, which is Not the only reason, but a great reason to use Rollo Insurance because they're super local. They're super national too. But like, if you want to talk to Jason Rollo, he's around town. Jackson Rollo as well. The entire staff. I see Morgan everywhere. He's my personal agent, and I have his cell phone number. You can have it as well. Whoever your personal agent is at Rollo Insurance. The number is 888-44-ROLLO. That is 888-44-ROLLO. Or go to rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. That's rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. The fall's not sky. The fall. The sky is not falling.
The fall
Goodness
is not
gracious,
skying.
Callie.
I mean, I don't think the fall
is not skying.
either.
It's
No,
not.
I don't think it can.
The sky's not falling in baseball, I hope. According to Bronny, according to me, we'll see what Kendall Rogers thinks of D1Baseball as we go to the Buppy's Catering hotline. Kendall, good morning, buddy.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, if you're asking, I'm going to give you a real answer. From a sports perspective, not the best. My basketball team's lost a couple games. My baseball team's lost a couple games. My softball team looks good. My track and field team looks good. So there's some good and stuff going on. But from a baseball perspective, it could be better.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, I saw a couple of innings over the weekend against Cal Poly at the very end of the Sunday game, and I didn't really like what I saw. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to sit down and actually watch the Tuesday game and just look. I want to see the bats. I want to see the body language. I want to see those kind of things. And I'll be really honest with you. I mean, outside of Wyatt Hensler, like I did not see great body language. It did not look like a team that was ultra inspired. A lot of lazy at bats, I thought. I mean, there were some times where you were in some advantageous counts, and I just didn't like the approach. So I think there's a few things at play here. The season's not over. We are in literally week 3 of college baseball. I mean, there have been teams that have been 500 at the midseason mark and won national championships. So anybody who thinks the season's over is crazy. But there's no doubt. I mean, if you look at this team, there are some issues. I thought this team, this is honestly a big reason why we had A&M number 1 coming into the season. I thought this was going to be a team that after they were left at the altar by Schloss, that would be just breathing fire this year. It was like, we're going to come out and, we're going to go scorched earth on everybody. That's not what I'm seeing at all. That does not look like a team who's ready to just go out and annihilate somebody. If anything, Texas State looked like that team last night, not A&M. That's the first thing I noticed. B, clearly, I think they're just pressing. I mean, anybody looks at, the lineup right now. I mean, again, Jay Lavallette's not going to hit 217. Hayden Schott's not going to hit 222. I mean, I don't think Gavin Cash is going to hit 160. I mean, he has not been very good. But, I mean, there are guys that have hit at an extremely high level who just are not hitting. So what A&M needs is they need like a slump buster weekend where they go to Houston, play really well, and all of a sudden there's confidence again. That's all this team needs. Now, I would argue there's some other issues like the bullpen that I'm not necessarily as gung-ho on thinking that it's just going to be all hunky-dory the rest of the year. But in terms of the offense, I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, so let's talk about this weekend because, I mean, I hate using the term must win or anything like that, but they really, for the vibes, for them to start feeling like, all right, we can get back to who we thought we were before the season started, they need to have a nice showing this weekend.
You really do. I mean, again, I hate to look at weekend 3 and go, oh, this is must win. But I mean, when you look at just creating that confidence again, it's big because if you look to SEC play, A&M did not exactly draw an easy SEC schedule. So it's one of the things where if you get yourself in a hole early in the year, it's just going to be really tough to crawl out. And what I mean by that is not crawl out to make the tournament. This team's making it into the tournament. What I mean is if your goals are being a top 8 seed, giving yourself an easier path to Omaha, that really and truly kind of starts this weekend. And if after the way they played the last 2 games, this team comes out flat, lazy approaches offensively this coming weekend, then I think fans do have very valid concerns. I don't know personally if I'm the number 1 team in the country. I don't know what could motivate me more than what you saw last night, which is, I would argue, very poor at bats.
All right, beyond the poor at bats, also one of the points that Bronny made in the previous segment is look, there's a lot of production that isn't in the lineup that we expected to see. Not having Caden Sorrell and Gavin Grahovic, who was playing banged up when he was playing and now he's done, has been a problem. So as I lay that all out for you, how big of an issue is it having this inconsistent lineup? I mean, it's not inconsistent that Caden hasn't played yet, but they expected him, and he was supposed to be one of the top players.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, getting Sorrell back will absolutely help. It will help a huge amount. But, you want to see these guys because Because here's the thing I always think about is like, okay, what happens if somebody goes down? Like, who is going to step up? So I think this weekend is important in the sense that, and it sounds like Sorrell will probably be back. Alabama weekend is what it kind of sounds like. I think Early might have alluded to that last night. But, what you would like to see if you're Early is like, okay, yeah, it stinks that we don't have those guys. There's no doubt we'll be better when they're back, but we've got to prove that we can, withstand a loss. Now, you're also losing Grahovic on top of that. But, I mean, let's not forget that, Grahovic wasn't exactly knocking the cover off the ball when he was in the lineup either. So I just think you want to prove as a team that you can withstand, one or two guys being down injury-wise, and this team has not done that. So, again, I still have the 100% full confidence in this offense. I think people saying that, I've already seen people on the message board, and granted, I don't know why I even read this sometimes. I guess I'm trying to help get clicks, but people like that are already like down and out early. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, we're in week 3. Let's see how things pan out. But there's no doubt that we're about to find out a lot about how Mike can manage a clubhouse, because this is a team that was number 1 in the country. We all talked about how great they were going to be. They're not so great right now. How does he handle it? And honestly, how do those veterans on this team handle that? We'll find out a lot this weekend.
All right, let's find something to be somewhat okay with. Like, who's been a bright spot?
Yeah, I mean, I think TK Jr. Is a bright spot. I mean, I think you look at, honestly, his defense. I think I was watching the post game yesterday, and early pointed this out. But Texas State blows A&M out if it's probably not for TK. So I think he's provided them a spark. Wyatt Hensler, after the year that he had at Penn last year, he certainly was locked in last night. That's going to be big for them if he continues to hit like that. And I'll tell you what, as many concerns that I have about the bullpen, the rotation is the least of my concerns. Prager has been Prager. Justin Lampkin, has been solid, 13 strikeouts in 10 innings. And then Miles Patton, Bronny will tell you this. I thought to Bronny in the fall, and I remember seeing Patton against U of H in the scrimmage, and I'm like, man, I don't really love the stuff. And, he was like, yeah, what's weird is like all the players on the team say like he's a really, really tough AB. And so to see him go out there and do what he has done so far, it is very encouraging. I mean, 16 strikeouts, 1 walk, just ultra efficient in 12 innings. And so rotation, I mean, that's an A to an A plus right now. The biggest thing for this team, just bullpen wise, is they've got to, with Stewart out, they again, it's kind of like when Sorrell's out on offense, somebody's got to step up and take the torch. With the bullpen, with Stewart out, like who's going to take the torch? And that's yet to be determined.
So, from a pitching perspective, what have you liked from the main guys? Like Prager has looked like Prager. Like just talk a little bit about just the starting rotation, how you feel about them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing I really liked about Prager, it's just like, man, it's just like he's the same guy every single time out there. So it's like, oh, he's going to mix his pitch as well. He's going to pound the zone. He's going to be in the bottom of the zone. Lampkin, I did not see his second start, but obviously he wasn't awesome his first start. But, again, I think his velo ticked up a little bit this year. I know he had a really good fall, and at least the outing I saw was really good. And then the thing about Patton that I liked a lot was he was around the zone a lot, and it was a lot of different looks. And so, Patton doesn't throw 97, but if you can go out there at 90, 91, 92, and you can give a team a lot of different looks, from the same arm angle, it's really difficult to kind of figure those guys out because when you're starting to think about it as a hitter, you're down 0-2 or 1-2 in the count, and you can't be as selective. So I've been impressed with him, and honestly, Brian, the guy that I kind of liked at the end of last night, strangely enough, we haven't seen him a lot, is Grant Cunningham. I honestly thought he was banged up a little bit. I guess he's not. But, I tell you what, that fastball at 93, 94, that sinker was actually a pretty nice pitch. So I wonder if Cunningham has earned himself a little bit larger role going into this weekend in Houston.
Talking to Kendall Rogers, D1Baseball here on TexAgs Live. Kendall, who else in college baseball has been maybe a bit underwhelming to start?
Well, the A&M of the East right now would be Virginia. I mean, again, honestly, very similar teams, and we kind of thought that coming this season. But Virginia's offense, talent-wise is like in lockstep with A&M's, even when A&M's healthy. And they scuffled. I saw them in Round Rock over the weekend. Harrison Bidwick for Virginia is one of the top players in the country. He's an All-American. I want to say he's hitting about 150 right now. They got 3 or 4 starting lineup guys that are hitting under 200. So, it's just one of those things that A&M is not alone. There are other teams out there like Virginia who have scuffled. There are teams like Tennessee who have done the opposite of what we thought, where they've just knocked the cover off the baseball despite losing like half their lineup. So it's just, it's one of those things where if you're Virginia, you're A&M, you'd rather be going through this now than all of a sudden in mid-May something like this happen and you're going, oh no, like what do we do?
Talking to Kendall Rogers here on TexAgs Live. Kendall, last thing for you. Who is somebody that's maybe surprised you? Is it UCLA?
Yeah, UCLA is one of those teams that has certainly surprised me a little bit. They've kind of fallen on some hard times of the way, but Rod Chalowski, give him a lot of credit. He could have gone to the SEC and gotten a massive NIL deal over the summer. He stuck with UCLA. He had a grand slam last night. The team that I would say probably, I don't know, surprises me would be the right word, but I think they're way better than I thought they would be, is Oklahoma. I saw Oklahoma over the weekend at Round Rock, and tell you what, you talk about a stellar rotation with Kyson and Malachi Witherspoon. They had some nice pieces on the back end. Jason Bodine, the former A&M pitcher, he was up to 97 over the weekend for Oklahoma. It was really good out of the bullpen for them. Kyle Branch, a North Texas kid, who's the younger brother of Colby Branch, who was at UGA last year. I mean, he is one of the best freshmen in the country. And Oklahoma, for me, is definitely surging up. And if I'm not mistaken, A&M does not play OU this year, but keep an eye on OU.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, Kendall. We'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate it.
Kendall Rogers, D1Baseball on the Buppies Catering Hotline. All right, we'll hit a break. By the way, he mentioned Oklahoma. I saw this. I thought, Kelly, you might know this name. Jim Nagy, who has been with the Senior Bowl forever. He has been hired by Oklahoma. He was with the NFL for a long time, too, to be their leader in roster building, player evaluation. I guess their general manager. So Jim Nagy, who's been on this show before, taking a job with Oklahoma. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with the shortest of segments. We'll just get to some final thoughts, text messages, and whatnot. Right now, we're talking Heritage Films. That's Chance McClain's company. They make documentary films about families, family businesses, family ranches, whatever it may be. Your family has a story. You may have not thought about it, but your family absolutely has a story. I mean, that is a fact. Like if it's maybe like our family story, my dad escaping Cuba, my mom leaving Cuba, meeting here in the States and starting their family. It could be whatever. Like it could be Billy's story, starting the Maroon White report out of the back of his car and building it and merging with Brandon and Josh and Hunter to build TexAgs. Everyone's got a story. And sometimes it could just be a normal story, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be this building of an empire. It could be of anything that makes your family uniquely you. And that's what Chance does. He captures that essence of your family in a 2-hour documentary film that you're going to absolutely love. Check out his website to learn more about him. He's the most creative guy I know. 713-893-8341. I told you about the website. I gave you the phone number. So here's the website, yourheritagefilm.com. Yourheritagefilm.com. Hi, we're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, the final segment of the program, which is always brought to you by Double Days, by the way. We go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Callie, where am I going to be Saturday?
You're going to be at the Angry Elephant in Cypress, which is actually, they say it's Fairfield. I learned that yesterday.
Okay.
But it is Cypress.
It's the Cypress address, but it's Fairfield.
But yeah, if you're looking them up on Instagram, it's Fairfield.
Okay. And who's going to be there with me?
OB.
4 to 6.
4 to 6.
Any chance OB gets a little tipsy and starts saying everything he wants?
I mean, I feel like he would do that
environment,
regardless,
yeah.
but saying anything he wants, I mean.
And is there anybody better with the listeners and the viewers of this program than Olin Buchanan?
No.
He enjoys it.
Top tier.
He thrives in it.
For sure. 1,000%.
We'll be there 4 to 6 on Saturday, March 1st. Hopefully, if you're in the Houston area, even if you're not, if you're in College Station, make the 44-minute drive. How long would it take you?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't think I should answer that.
39 minutes. Am I right?
Maybe.
Josh Pate had a text or a tweet you want him to...
Well, yeah, he just said, when I'm college football commissioner, we will abolish the field and court storming taxes the big conferences are imposing on our people. I didn't know if you...
Say that again. So when he's college football commissioner...
He would abolish the field and court storming taxes that they're imposing. So he's in support of the storming.
I'm in support of it too.
Mm-hmm.
But someone's going to die.
For sure.
One day, it's like... Oh, sorry, I shouldn't say it like that. Someone's going to get hurt.
I think the field is a lot more dangerous than the basketball courts.
Yeah. I mean, because there's 100,000 people.
They're just coming in from everywhere.
We got to drop it there. Thank you so much for watching. Tomorrow's show will be awesome. You know why I know that? I know we got to go. AT will be on it. Garrett Chatter will be on there. Others will be on. I think Steve McGee. We'll see you mañana. Bye.